to the Unpatched Gaming Podcast, where we share games. I'm your host, Zach.
And I am your host, Tyler. It's here, Zach.
Tell me.
I think our favorite time of the year.
Oh, yes.
October.
My anniversary. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Your anniversary, your birthday, and also horror games.
Yeah, no. Anniversary's technically December, but I'll smush it all together.
Right? Okay, I'm sorry.
I'll smush it together.
I'm sorry, I'm a terrible friend.
Yeah, for not remembering my anniversary.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell my wife. No, keep going. Go ahead.
So we have a loaded episode today. We've got the PlayDead games. We've got Little Nightmares 1 and 2. Something called Dark, which a lot of you may not have heard of. A very interesting little puzzle platformer. Barely a platformer. It's more a point and click. And some weird things that are kind of hard to categorize. And Zach finally got to play a horror game he's been looking forward to for a long time. But as is tradition around here, we have some beer brought to you by... Yeah, we've got, this is Holdout Brewing here in Austin.
Fantastic.
Yes, they are one of my new favorites. Not the best around. Lazarus is hard to beat.
Sure.
And Jester
stacking
King,
up against those
however,
odds is tough.
Still great. Holdout Brewing. We have a flight, 6 very small beers that they put this together during lockdown, so you can take home these little bitty flights. So we've got 6 beers here, and it was 6 games. This episode has sort of ballooned. I'll need this, but we got a lot for you. So I'll pour the first one after you go ahead and talk about what you've been really excited for this week.
Yeah. And why don't you just go ahead and start pouring real quick?
Sure.
Mention the first one, and then we'll talk
so
about it.
This is gonna progress in complexity. Got a very light beer here with their nice and clean. This is, as they put it, a American lager.
I love the simple beers, man. So I just kind of wanted to open with just something that I had the chance to play. We aren't going to play it for the cast. It was never on the schedule. But something that I had some time. I was house sitting at my parents' house watching Grandma. And I couldn't bring my PS5 along, couldn't bring my PC. So I actually brought my PS4 and just downloaded The Evil Within 1. And got to play that with Amanda. She really enjoyed it as well. But I just want to talk about it because it's a weird beast. And we are looking for... We actually pushed it off twice now, so it's definitely happening next year.
It was supposed to be our first year, and then also supposed to be this year, but Evil Within 2, we've both been very excited for.
Yeah, and now that I've played 1, we are definitely not pushing it off. I just wanted to kind of mention it. It won't go too in depth, but honestly, when I booted it up and started playing it, I was like, this plays like a non-cover shooter Last of Us 2.
Interesting.
It was really...
very odd.
Yeah.
Last of Us 2?
Yeah, which, this game came out ages ago. Last of Us 2, obviously, so much more polished and pretty, but I'm talking about, like, the way it feels, the gameplay.
Oh, I thought that game was kind of ugly, performed pretty poorly.
Oh, The Last of Us 2?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even on the PS4 Pro, it was really poor performance.
I think if you guys go back and listen, it is, in both our opinions, the best looking and well presented game ever, probably.
I've not played the cowboy shooty game that takes either first.
I'd put Last of Us 2 above just because it's a tighter experience. It's smaller, but
we're not here to talk about Last of Us 2 because I'll talk about it for a very long time.
Yeah, and honestly, this game has the same problem with stealth. It does open environments, just like Last of Us 2. It, managing resources, trying to think smarter, not harder. All that stuff is in here. It's very good. I'd even argue it has some strengths over Last of Us 2 in terms of the cover shooter problems aren't present because it's not a cover shooter. It makes up in other areas. Fear not.
Okay.
But it does do things better and interesting, and not to compare them, but when I got that feeling, it was very weird for me. One thing to know if you are going to play it, one of the worst opening chapters of any game I've ever played. Incredibly, It doesn't even reflect what you're going to be doing the rest of the game. It's a terrible Outlast-y stealth section. Just garbage. And then terrible performance on PS4. I actually put it on PS5, and in sections that people had the worst performance, I did pretty fine. I don't know if that's going to be reflective of everyone's experience. PS5 helped a lot. Didn't fix it, but it helped a lot. And then, just the last handful of chapters are also very weak. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of throw it out there as a game that people should be talking about and thinking about, specifically
If
the
I
sequel.
ever play it, it'll be on PC. You know, performance is a sticking point for me, and if you're pointing out performance, I know it's bad.
It's very bad. Like, I usually don't care.
His PlayStation didn't read the disc for, or I guess the disc was faulty for his copy of Prince of Persia. We played a couple months ago, and he played the whole thing. It was like dipping down to the
Tens.
teens or something like that. The colors were kind of off. It was the inputs were laggy, and he played the whole thing no problem. Like, he didn't mind very much.
So when I mentioned it, it's a big deal.
Yeah,
It's a big deal.
crazy to me. Like, performance is a big deal for me. I'll overlook some things, but so, like what he told me, I will not play the game.
So let me
at
just
least on PS4.
So not to I don't want to spend too much time on this. I did enjoy it. Not a game I necessarily recommend to many people because of its problems, but it does devolve at the end of the game. It dumps all its best ideas into just a lesser Resident Evil. Big old shootout, like, just guns blazing. It dumps its best ideas. So, but I want to give an example of what it does right. So one of the very first areas, you come into this village and a door locks behind you as you're trying to escape from a horde of, for lack of a better word, zombies. They're zombies chasing you. You slam it down behind you, and you're in this village. And as you walk up, it's pretty empty, and there's nothing there. And then you kind of see your target. You see a gate closed at the end. One of the NPCs tells you that's where you need to get. My patient ran through there. So you have a very clear objective, but there are enemies everywhere. Like, everywhere at this point when you come into this section. And it's a large open space. There are like 3 houses. One's a barn. And as you progress through the area, you're going through slowly, trying to not draw attention, maybe stealth kill some enemies, kind of thin the herd a little bit. And along the way, you'll see like items. So you can pick up an axe that an enemy drops, and you get a 1-hit kill one time on an enemy, basically. Yeah. There's a mechanic with matches where you can burn a body, but it's not like Resident Evil where it gets rid of the body. It's there to, if an enemy gets knocked down, like if I shoot them in the leg, I can light a match and kill them instantly, not waste any more ammo. If another zombie's on top of them while I do that, it will light that zombie on fire as well.
Cool. That sounds nice.
Yeah, the match mechanic is awesome. Fire spreads on certain things. You can really think about it. So you're making it through this area. You get very familiar. You see where traps are located. You can actually have fun and toy with the traps to kill some enemies. Spikes fall, darts shoot. You pulling some cranks and levers and stuff. And then you start to get to know where the tight spaces are, where the more open spaces are. You identify where the bomb traps are. And then you realize that you need a chainsaw to get through the gate at the end. And the chainsaw's right next to the boss enemy, who of course is going to wield a chainsaw after you. And so when you walk up, he revs his chainsaw, breaks out, comes after you. So at this point, all the enemies you haven't killed are coming after you, and this guy is chasing you. But you have had the chance to intimately get to know this environment. And so you are leading all the enemies down tight corridors so you can get one big old shotgun blast on all of them. You know where the traps are, you lead them there. You can even be tricky and get the bombs working. You get a crossbow where you can lay your own traps through certain sections if you want, or through anywhere. But you can like basically devise your own traps. Maybe even use, enemies that you left behind to your advantage to like make it harder for the guy to get to you.
Interesting.
Really well implemented. And so what happened to my mind when I entered a room was not my usual question in a video game like this, which is, all right, who should I take out first? What ammo reserves? That was never my question in the larger environments. When I get dumped into a trash compactor area with 3 rooms, I immediately go to those rooms and go, okay, where are the tight spaces? Where are the traps? Where the traps are going to try to get me? Maybe set up my environment a little bit and then go. My question was, how can I use this environment? Which is just not a question you get a lot in games.
Yeah, not often enough. I'll definitely agree.
Yeah, and it was just really refreshing. Man, if you could get... So, some enemies come later that hold Molotov cocktails. The enemy variety is fantastic and not used enough. So you can wait for them and then shoot the cocktail if you have good aim and blow up, all of the zombies around you. But the cocktails light people on fire, so if any more are coming down that way, it lights them on fire. If you see an oil spill, you can just corral all of them together and just drop a match on the oil spill and they'll all light up like you didn't waste any ammo. You can be really smart. There are invisible enemies at one point, like literally only one point in the game. They should have used it way more because it's super tense. You can see their steps in water for any water on the ground. They're really sneaky.
Can you put water on the ground?
No, unfortunately not.
Okay.
It's not quite that open. I would have loved to see
awesome.
that. Love to see something like that, right? But it's those ideas, and I have a deep respect for it. Unfortunately, it does not quite meet the sum of its parts. A lot of parts are very weak, especially near the end there and at the very beginning. The end is just a giant shootout with, it's Resi, but with mechanics that really aren't built for Resi as much. The camera's really tight on your back, like way tighter than Resi 4. Less action-y game already, but when you get to this giant arena fight at the end, it's just kind of, you're rolling your eyes. You're like, I don't care about this anymore. So all that to say, I enjoyed playing it. Glad I got to, and it was a nice lead up to prep me for the beginning of our new series.
Yeah, I'm very excited to jump into these. I'm also liking this beer a lot. I typically don't like lagers, and what's the other typical light beer? Pilsner. I think they don't really do it for me. But there's plenty of flavor in here. This is not I kind of think they're a little boring. But this is.
I mean, it still
this
tastes
is
like
really
a
good.
lager, but it has a lot of bitterness to it.
Yeah,
That's really nice.
I like.
Do you think they hopped it
complexity
at
of
all? Maybe a little bit. And it doesn't taste
I don't
too
know.
hoppy. It doesn't taste grassy, but they might have, added some bitterness. I'm not sure. It tastes great.
I like it though. I could definitely drink a few cans of that. But before we move
okay.
too much forward, I'm curious. Did you play the Milk game?
I did not.
Then I'm going to talk about it now.
Do it.
Because that's the one thing that I got around to playing this week. The extra game, 15 minutes. The only game that I played extra was 15 minutes. But I came upon this really weird game. And I did so. We use How Long to Beat pretty often to help make our schedules. So we were having a conversation, and I looked at Inside. I searched How Long to Beat Inside. And on the website, of course, it shows Inside, the game, but it shows any other game with Inside in the title.
Or
One
in
of
the
the only other
description.
ones.
Like sometimes it pulls up really weird
Interesting.
things.
I haven't noticed that myself. One of the only other games that included Inside was a game called Milk Inside a Bag of Milk Inside a Bag of Milk. And it was 15 minutes. And I laughed at it. I sent you a screenshot. I was like, what is this dumb game? But anyway, I had Sable in my cart on Steam. And I was like, I have to just see. So I put it in there, and like most Steam games, it goes into the void and I forget about it. But I was bored, and for some reason that title hadn't left my head. A couple days later, I was bored waiting for some footage to export, and so I downloaded it. I was like, whatever, I'll play this game. This has been one of the greatest surprises this year. Again, 15 minutes. It is a visual novel. But oddly enough, it's also about, I say also, just based on our last game, also about mental illness. And you are a voice inside of this girl's head. Her mom just tasked her with going to the store to get some milk. You don't know that. You don't know what the heck is going on, because you're a voice that she has made up in her head so she can, like, get through walking across the street to the gas station. Just like get through this totally mundane task with some sanity. And she is sort of morphing you into a psychiatrist almost, some sort of psychiatrist figure. And then she's like, I'm gonna talk to a player. Like I'm in one of those silly games. I think they call them visual novels or whatever. And so it's a pretty meta game, but it takes some really weird, really dark turns, and is presented, unlike most games, it's presented in a dirty way. I'm going to use that word again later. It's kind of grungy a little bit, but the end of it took me by surprise. And I'm sorry, I've actually sort of spoiled it a little bit, but it is 15 minutes. It's 99 cents. I cannot recommend playing it enough. It is unlike anything I've played, and I won't say much more. I can't say much because it is only 15 minutes. I've already said too much, really. But just take a look at some screenshots, and it's very highly rated on Steam. The people who have discovered this game love it, and I'm on board. It's one of my greatest surprises this year in terms of video games, and I don't think you'll be disappointed. 99 cents, 15 minutes. Do yourself a favor. Milk inside a bag of milk.
If you know anything about Tyler, these little weird niche recommendations are probably things you should follow. Yeah. Tyler's pretty good at that stuff.
And there's a sequel coming out later this year.
Yeah, I'm good at recommending Call of Duty. Chad bro.
That's correct.
No, anyway.
No, not true. Not really. I mean, you have at least thoughtful recommendations. Definitely,
but they do tend to fall more into the Doom category. Like, people know about them. So definitely listen to Tyler. So I want to really quick. This is only our second horror series that we've ever done as Unpatched, but it is going to look different. Last year, we really had an overarching goal. We had some pillars of horror we were going through, and I love that. But the way that we share games throughout the year is pretty loose, and so with this year, we're going to try just, kind of keeping it more episode to episode, and maybe if a common string comes through from what we've just been wanting to play, maybe we can start talking about that. But this episode today is going to be kind of this indie highlight reel, specifically for games that kind of are in that weird space between game and like a video game as we understand it, and something using the video game medium in a way that is not a game necessarily. Think how people talk about walking sims, maybe, right? We don't have a good word for that yet, but I do think it's unique and should be talked about differently, and maybe not even comparatively to a classic idea of a video game.
I agree. We've had a very heated discussion about this, which we shall not rehash here or ever.
But we're on the same page now.
Good.
And it's definitely, it needs to be talked about in a new way. So we'll get to that. But we also covered what I would classify horror puzzle platformers.
Yeah.
Which is really odd because we didn't intend to pick just puzzle platformers, but half the games are puzzle platformers.
Yeah, well, we did. I mean, it has ballooned, but it was Little Nightmares and Limbo and Inside.
But I mean, we didn't go in going, let's play horror puzzle platformers,
Well, they were specifically things that are presented in an unconventional way, things that are not typically seen as a vehicle for horror. And I think that's kind of an untapped place. Maybe not so much anymore. I mean, we've got 4 or 5. I don't know if Black, I think it's called Black, or maybe it's called Dark. There's another game that came out like the year after Inside that is also doing that. It's very dark, very dystopian, lots of death and dread.
Yeah.
I feel like it's called Black.
Okay. That does not ring a bell.
Something similar. But there are definitely things like this. It's a space now. It's an official place you can go to find horror, and some really, really good horror.
And I mean, even though I talked negatively about it last year, Lone Survivor has still not left me. There's something there that I just think is really, really beautiful. And then, of course, Darkwood. Darkwood's never leaving either of us.
Yeah, that is one of our favorite games.
Yeah.
And we... why did we even put that on the list?
I think I had saw some videos. I had seen some videos about it, and I didn't watch them. I was like, this looks interesting. I just saw a couple screenshots from the top-down perspective. That gray,
yeah. We
and I was like,
both
this looks
seen
good.
it. I had seen it the year prior, I think, and it was in my wish list, but I had just never really given it much thought. I mean, my wish list is like 150 or 200 games at this point, just things that are vaguely interesting to me. But we just sort of willy-nilly threw it on the list.
Yeah, and I'm so glad we did.
Yes.
It's so incredible. But both those games, Lone Survivor and Darkwood, are using gameplay formats and specifically perspectives that are not traditionally associated with horror. And I think this is a lot of these games are going to reflect that, and I think that's a natural extension of what we found in Darkwood and Lone Survivor last year.
Yeah.
So I think that's why we wanted to start with this, really give these guys their due, and talk well about them. And I kind of have three broad topics that I think we should at least touch on as we talk about the games. We might not, but how are they doing horror? So like, in what ways are they horror? Is it just a genre? Is the gameplay integrated? Things like that. And then, how are they doing game, quote unquote? Like, is it a game at all? Or how is it using those gameplay mechanics? Why do you think it was that kind of game? Things like that. And then just wrapping up, just what are they doing that you can't get in your Resident Evils and your Eternal Darknesses, your larger budget, big studio published games.
Eternal
Darkness? Oh,
Darknesses. Dark Nigh. We can use that as a plural.
Wonderful. Never speak that again.
I have no more beer.
Yeah, let's
open up
another
some more
beer.
beer. All right, we have.
See, I can keep up with the pace of the glass like this.
Yeah. This is the Easy Pale Ale. Read that word and those subsequent words.
Suave, besame, otra, and otra vez. I know that word.
And what's the beer?
Suavemente.
Suavemente.
That's my terrible Hispanic accent that my British Spanish teacher made me practice in high school. That is not a slander against her.
Accent? She made you practice an accent?
Yeah, it was very important. It was very important to sound to show that you're respectful of the culture, not just going "Otre vase, me lamo Zack." Because we had a kid who did that.
That seems like that might not hold.
God
up.
bless you, Kyle. You're the best. Yeah, but she's amazing.
Slide
By the
over
way,
here.
I hope that she's still there at Rouse High School. She's the best. I love her. I miss you. And yeah,
she watches our show. Yeah,
I hope she does. There's no way in hell. She's a Tottenham Hotspur fan.
I don't know what that is.
Football.
Oh,
and by football I mean soccer.
Yes. So we're gonna dive into.
This is hoppy.
It is a pale ale. Wow, this just on the nose is super hoppy.
Yeah, but it's like a fruit hop. It's not like that grassy or that. Yeah, it's definitely a fruit hop.
Well, it's a little grassy.
It is on the taste, but I mean, do you smell that? Like almost tropical fruit smell.
Mm-hmm. Man, I can't wait to get to the New Juice Goofin'. That's
the name?
Is really good. Yep.
New Juice Goofin'?
Yeah.
That's got to be the name for the next Goofy movie. Max and Goofy are back in New Juice Goofin'.
Yes, we can make sure that happens. Let's call Disney.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna start with Little Nightmares.
Yes.
I played this when it launched. You can see I've got 6 there from the collector's edition back in the day, and I had very fond memories of it. And you seem to like it way more than I did this time around. In fact, I did not play this again.
We'll talk about how I feel about this game. It's a complicated relationship.
Yeah, but I'm happy to hear it. It's more interesting that way.
Yeah.
I didn't finish it this time around because I was playing it on. No, I could have finished it. Really, I could have gone back to PC and played it, but I didn't because I spent the $40 to get this. However, the first game on Switch does not run well.
Yeah, this should be I was going to mention this is the first caveat. Do not buy this game on Switch unless that is the only way you can play it.
Now, that's for the first one. The second one, great.
I will make that caveat as well. The final 2 chapters are an absolute mess with some of the worst texture pop-in I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, on the second one?
On the second one.
Oh, don't play either of them on Switch then.
If you can
because they look awesome.
Yeah.
You want the best visuals you can get. So the performance here, given the structure of the game, which we'll talk about, it's a big negative. The load times on Switch are unbearable. I timed them. I think one of them I timed was 47 seconds between 8 seconds of gameplay.
Yeah.
So it's really unbearable.
Everyone, he's not joking. It is around 30 to 40 seconds every single time. Yeah. And it is not a game that needs that.
No, and they show that in the second one because the load times don't exist. You're immediately back in the game, so they did fix it. I don't know what prevented them from patching the load times out on the first one, but they've not done that. Play it on another platform.
Yes, please. So let's start with a kind of a brief survey of the game for those who don't understand. how wonderful. No, if people haven't seen it before, this is basically a game that rides a lot on its aesthetics, and it really has this unique, almost paper mache playbox kind of look to it, while also being kind of classic 3D animation. It's very we'll talk about the aesthetics a little more, but you play as a young girl in a raincoat going through this space, multiple different spaces with these large, terrifying creatures, long arms, these really creepy looking chef characters, like lots of really grotesque.
They're wearing
suits,
like other people's skin, right?
It's
really gross.
Yeah, it's really gross.
All of it's really gross. Like the whoever's running the nursery, the really short guy with super long arms. Like, is it the first Nightmare on Elm Street?
Yeah, probably, where
I
he
think
does
so.
like the reach over thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So very much like that. They are wearing a lot of their inspirations on their sleeve.
Yeah, and I have them listed here, actually. I want to talk about that in a second, because I think it's super core to the game. But it is a puzzle platformer. You will sometimes be under pressure, being chased by creatures. And it's really, a lot of it boils down to trial and error. And you're just trying to find the puzzle key, get it to the goal, things like that. And there's a lot more, versus some of the games we'll talk about later, there's a lot more platformer than puzzle in Little Nightmares. Both games. It's definitely more about, being able to, run from the crazy enemy, take your time and look around, and maybe find the place to climb up, things like that. So, let's talk about the aesthetics. This is so key. So here's what I wrote down. It's Miyazaki meets Burton meets City of Lost Children with a little bit of Gormenghast sprinkled in. That's going to be one from... That's this book series I was talking about.
Okay, so you're going to...
I'll read from it here in a little bit. But, it's... Dude, there's chapter 4. There are a lot of adults just gorging themselves.
Oh, total spoilers for, I guess, all of these games except for Little Nightmares 2. That came out this year. So maybe no spoilers for that one. Or as few as possible.
Yeah, I'll hold off on spoilers for Little Nightmares 2.
But these...
Everything
these are all
else, it will be spoilers. Spoilerific. But chapter 4 is a bunch of adults gorging themselves. They'll even try to eat you. It's gross. It is really not portrayed, and it reminds me just immediately of Spirited Away, the pigs, right? It's just incredible. City of Lost Children. If you haven't seen that movie, please watch.
I gotta watch it, man. I've had it for some time.
I
just haven't seen it yet.
It's really special.
It's true. Just like games, my Apple Movies library is now like just over 200. Because they go on sale for $2 to $4 and $4.99.
And Tim Burton too. I don't say that. You usually think of like a character aesthetic with him, which we'll get to that. But it's definitely not the characters. It's the environments, the spaces, some of the colors. Mm-hmm. That's where I get Tim Burton. It's
the detail of the spaces, like
that's a better
plates.
Yeah.
The background is more Burton.
That's a much better way of phrasing it. Absolutely. In fact, I want to read a little section from Gormenghast for those who don't know. This is a description of the chef character in Gormenghast. This is the chef.
Okay.
So there is in Little Nightmares.
Interesting.
A chef. Chapter 3 is about these two chefs wearing these really grotesque fat folds bodysuits. Yeah. And they're you can see them shoving food up underneath the chin.
Yeah, so they can eat it.
It's really gross. In this part of the book, basically the head servant has come down to the kitchen to see the chef throwing a party, basically. The long beams of sunlight, which were reflected from the moist walls in a shimmering haze, had pranked the chef's body with blotches of ghost light. The effect from below was that of dappled volume of warm, vague whiteness and of a gray that dissolved into swamps of midnight. Of volume that towered and dissolved among the rafters. As occasion merited, he supported himself against the stone pillar at his side, and as he did so, the patches of light shifted across the degraded whiteness of the stretched uniform he wore. When Mr. Flay had first eyed him, the cook's head had been entirely in shadow. Upon it, the tall cap of his office rose coldly, a vague topsail half lost in a fitful sky. In the total effect, there was indeed something of a galleon. So, like, just the way he talks about, like, the mushing together of the whites and the grays, and he's this huge guy. He goes on to talk about his words just kind of dropping out of his mouth.
Yeah, isn't the word they use, like, plop?
Yeah, something like that. It's just, I mean, it is there in that aesthetic. And the way...
Something like, I heard you reading it earlier, like the fat words plop out of his mouth or something.
Yeah,
what is that book about?
The Gormenghast series is about this kind of secluded castle where everybody just follows these old rituals that have no more meaning anymore, and a young upstart named Steerpike, who's the villain of the story, and how he turns all of that upside down. It's
Is he also the main character?
No, the main character is Titus in the second book, but in the first book, there's no real main character. Steerpike, I guess, could be the main character in the first book, yeah. It's seriously one of the best books I've ever read. I'd put it in the top 10 series. It's my third favorite fantasy series ever, but it's very low fantasy, like no magic.
Lord of the Rings, and then what's under
that? The Once and Future King.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because I mean, and the book goes on. There are more sections that really reflect what I'd call the grotesques. That's how he would phrase it. And that's how Charles Dickens would call it. The grotesques of Little Nightmares.
Yeah.
It's really incredible. Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
What do you think about the camera?
I thought it had... Okay, so, again, I didn't play the first one. I started the DLC for the first one because it comes on the, on the disc, on the cart, and then I stopped because of the load times. So, I don't know how prevalent it is in the first one, but the second one, the camera is actually one of the first things I had an issue with. I think the depth... because I played Limbo
Thank you,
first.
I thought it was me.
I played Limbo, then I played Little Nightmares. And I thought the depth, while an interesting idea, is really difficult to manage.
Yeah, so to give a picture, it is a 3D space you're walking in, but
a 2D camera, slightly angled. It's certainly not an isometric view, very slightly angled.
So here's my two takes from this, and this is what really stuck out to me, is it doesn't work in the second one. It's too squeaky clean. But in the first one, it's almost like you're looking into this diorama, and it's so... like, I get why they wanted it. Like, you're almost looking into this space as if you're moving through a dollhouse, section by section.
Definitely. Did you go back and select chapters?
No, I did not.
It's exactly that.
Okay, yeah. See, that's what I think, and I love
they're
that's
like
what
little
they're going
blocks
for.
With everything set up inside of them.
And one of the greatest moments
nice.
I have had all year in a video game happened because of the camera.
Okay.
So it turns out that you are on the ocean, which you can kind of tell if you're paying attention. I was not. I paid attention to other things and caught them, but definitely not this. I just didn't put the pieces together. And you climb out of this hatch, and you start climbing this ladder on this, kind of industrial-looking ladder. And the camera zooms out further than it ever has. A little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And it reveals just this massive vessel on the ocean and people boarding this ship. Some of the grotesques from Chapter 4 I was talking about earlier. And the scale, because everything has been so tight and claustrophobic. And just that scale, that freedom, that deep breath. Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
It's good. This game has really stuck with me for the 4
But
years.
You're right. You're so right. Like, there are so many moments where you have to be going full sprint. Like, really, you have to know it's about to happen and already be running a lot of the time. And you're trying to even running through a large door. Sometimes, because the camera is moving and shifting as you're running, I'll end up running straight
You'll hit the
into
doorway.
like, constantly. And then you'll get captured and you have to do it again. And it's not even something you can fix. You have to know that the camera's going to move a certain way, and your controller's going to start turning you more toward the door.
Or God
frame.
forbid you've got to jump off of a ledge to catch a rope. That's the worst for me, man.
Yeah, so the depth really doesn't work. I was hoping in the second game they'd address that and maybe find some way to use shadows.
I found it to be really bad in the second one.
Yeah,
Is it worse?
I would argue the second one does most things worse.
That's rough, man.
Yeah, most things worse.
That's sad because None of that. I didn't remember having any of those issues. The load times, though I did play it on PC on launch. The load times I don't remember. That's because PC. The trial and error I don't remember being an issue. The depth that didn't. So it's really the aesthetics that have stuck with me for the past 4 years. To great effect. I thought this game was so good. That's why I said we should play it. But I'm glad you got to experience it. You seem to
I would not
like Evil Within, have a love-hate relationship. It seems.
I definitely think there's a lot more to hate in well, no, actually that's pretty accurate. There's both. Okay. I think it's both. But
so I'm glad you got to play it, but also sorry you had to play it, man.
So yeah, Tyler already mentioned it. I want to talk about at its best and at its worst.
Sure.
So at its worst, this game is trial and error. With it is set piece to set piece. You know, if there are too many set pieces in a game, there are too many scripted scares, for lack of a better word, you're not engaged anymore. You realize the game is just taking you through a cinematic, you know? Mm-hmm. And it starts to feel like that. And then, of course, you talk about the tight platforming and the problems with the camera. At its best, at its very best, the game is incredibly intuitive. You know what your goal is, where you need to be. Some of the moments in the kitchen, there are like multiple floors and spaces to solving one puzzle, to getting one key. And it's very clearly communicated to the player what they need to get, where that thing is, and the challenges of getting it back. What's going to be in your way. Consistently throughout Chapter 3. Incredibly well communicated. And that's when it's its best. It's also at its best when there's a couple different ways for you to tackle it. This happens only once I can think of, but there's a little library section in Chapter 2 where you can climb up and over or go underneath. You can, get the key, throw it out, maybe try to get the enemy to go around a certain way, walk up atop the rafters, or go down on the floor where he can squeak and hear you, and just be more careful. Just straight out, flat out run. Just ways for you to kind of use the environment and think that way. When the game is firing on all cylinders, it's
really good.
It's really good. Unfortunately, I'd argue that the majority of the game is not firing on all cylinders.
Those sort of things are things that I'm a stickler for. So I think the fact that I didn't remember any of it does lend a lot of credence to just how awesome the aesthetics are here. I cannot recommend it enough for that reason. But if the performance issues, well, on other platforms you won't get the performance issues, you'll get the fundamental design issues. If those are things that you're particularly sensitive to, stay away from it. Watch a playthrough, because it's worth it. Yeah, I think it is worth it. But if you can overlook that stuff and want to see something pretty interesting, I think the first Little Nightmares is worth your time.
Yeah, definitely. That's a really good point. It gives me high hopes that you'll like Metal Gear Solid 5 because its issues are anything but technical and performance. Everything is so clean.
If it's the narrative, I'm probably not going to care.
No. It's like it's some of the repeat missions at the end and that stuff, right?
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah. But also, if that's at the end, then it's not going to matter much.
Oh yeah, the whole first chapter there's 2 chapters. It's incredible. Absolutely, just pop. Fire. Yeah. Anyway, so that's why I have high hopes that you'll enjoy it, because it's not these kinds of issues. But let's talk horror. What do you think this game gives in terms of horror? Is it delivering any horror experience? Is it just horror in genre? What do you think?
I think it's definitely just horror in genre. Well, okay, you have a much more accurate take than I do, because I didn't play this one and I didn't finish the second one, because fundamentally I think it's a bad game.
Sure.
And I think
I won't go quite that far, but
no, I mean the design. I mean, the fundamental design pillars of the game. The camera, the depth, the trial and error, those are the 2 main things.
Yeah, that's all you need, really.
So the game aspect. I don't mean the entire experience. I just mean fundamentally. I think it's a bad game.
Yeah, I don't know
it's a poorly designed game. I think
when I see it working, it makes me think that those pillars.
That's
could
the second
work.
one. This one.
No, I mean the first. Oh, okay, I understand.
I'm not so sure how much that is true here. But the set
overall,
pieces, I don't know if it's offering anything that is particularly horror.
Yeah,
I think it
I made a
is
note
just
here.
the visuals.
They're a little bit tense, but mostly pretty weak.
Yeah, so I think it's mostly just the aesthetic. It's horror in the aesthetic genre, not really any sort of mechanical definition of the genre. So it's worth a watch. You know, if you are already akin to watching games, I don't typically, but if that's something you do, definitely it's 2.5 or 3 hours. It's worth it.
And I think for me, the heart of the horror revolves around the progression of Six as a character. Because, I mean, immediately, it's a small girl in a raincoat, obviously being, mistreated and abused.
Is she a small girl? Is it a girl or a boy? Is it ever revealed?
I believe it's a girl.
That's what a lot of people say, but then, I didn't finish the DLC, but I thought, you and I had this discussion, how much spoilers do we want to get into? It's like halfway through the second
spoilers
one. In the second one.
Oh, let's not talk second one.
Okay.
Not talk second one.
All right. So I'm
pretty sure it's a girl just based on what I've seen on like YouTube videos and stuff.
Yeah, but a lot of that is pre Little Nightmares 2.
I don't think I finished Little Nightmares 2. I don't think that's the case. Right. Yeah. I'd be happy to be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that it's a little girl. Anyway, little cute run on tiptoes, like obviously.
Oh my god, the animation!
Oh,
it's so
brilliant.
Good,
and the lighting with her little lighter and all that stuff. So, obviously being chased by these grotesque creatures, right? It's scary. So you feel bad for her, and she gets hungry every once in a while. So the first time she's given a piece of bread by another inmate, another child being prepared for being eaten, and you eat the bread. Ravenously, you're very hungry. Like, she can't even walk, and the next time you find some just trash, you just have to eat this trash because it's all that's there. And so every chapter there's one hunger scene. In the third chapter, it really sticks out where she eats this rat that's caught in a trap, and it's very remorseless, very much like, well, how to do that, like, didn't even care, like, nothing. The music's a little bit creepy, the piano, and this builds up to what I think is a huge moment. I've seen it on YouTube a million times now that I've started looking at Little Nightmares videos, but where she attacks and eats one of the cute little gnome creatures that you have been kind of taking care of and hugging and keeping, just without question. And the gnome was offering her a sausage to eat, and she just ate the gnome, like, no questions. And then you devour the lady at the end too. So it's this progression of just like, it just, you don't feel good about it. And
that's something we didn't mention is the music. You just briefly mentioned the music. That when we talk about the aesthetics, that's included.
Absolutely.
The music and the sound design is a big part of
just
this
her
game.
little pitter patter across different types of surfaces.
Yeah, just those like bare feet on a wet surface. It's great, and that's going to be true of both these two games and Limbo and Little Nightmares. The sound design and the music are stellar.
Yeah,
and in all of them, I think Limbo the least of them. The animation is stellar and a huge part in delivering the overall experience.
Though, none of those four had my favorite music of these games.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
Yeah, I think I know it. I know what it is.
We'll talk about it. So yeah, and I wrote a couple other things down. There's some confusion while you're trying to figure out Six's story. There are some, like, you being slow and clumsy does lend to tension, not horror necessarily, but it does lend to tension, knowing that you need to be careful and plan out, what's going to happen there. But yeah, the sound design, the way that the chefs will screech at you as they chase you, and they're fast. They waddle real fast.
Which is weird.
Yeah, it's really bizarre. And again, because it's these flesh suits, it's just expressionless, and like their eyes will widen like random. It's very gross and well done. And we talked a lot about the gameplay already. So yeah, just our last little point, like what does this game have to offer that you're not going to find in your big AAA games?
Oh, in the big AAA games, I think the aesthetic, really, this is not something that you typically see, this sort of amalgamation. Otherwise,
and it went
not much
all in.
Oh yeah,
no.
Yeah, this is not for anyone even remotely squeamish.
Yeah, it's gross.
It's very gross. Yeah, especially the chefs, and then chapter 4.
Yeah, really gross. It's just unsettling. Yeah, it does that really well. Absolutely.
Otherwise, not much. I mean, obviously, you don't get big AAA horror platformers, but I don't think that's particularly good here. So it's really just the aesthetic. You don't really see that elsewhere.
Yeah,
it's sort of a borrower's sort of take. That's it. Other than that, I don't think it offers much.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I will acquiesce to that, but because of the kind of emphasis I know a lot of people put on that stuff, I would definitely recommend it.
Of course, yeah. I mean, I've already said that. Definitely.
Yeah.
If you can get past the fundamental design of the game part of it, it's far and away worth your time. That's a weird way of phrasing it. It's definitely worth your time. Again, it has stuck with me since launch. I played it on launch, and I haven't forgotten the game for all of these reasons. As we've talked, I may have forgotten a couple parts.
Sure, but
like eating the rat.
Feel.
Yeah, it has stuck with me for 4 years now. It's definitely worth it. The music adds to that. The theme song is so good, and the way it creeps in at subtle little moments.
Yeah, it's brilliant, man.
It's unlike anything else you're gonna find, but maybe watch it. Definitely don't play it on Switch.
Why don't you pour our next beer, and I'll run. There's not much else to add with Little Nightmares 2.
Definitely not. So this one here is the first. Pale ales are hoppy, but we have the Koala Takedown. This is a new.
That's another great name.
Yeah. This is a new Austral Zealand.
No, knockout.
The new Austral Zealand juice box.
Yeah. So for me, the only thing I wrote is it's just a weaker game.
Ooh, you see these getting darker.
it's you love to see it. Love to see it.
Correct.
But yeah, you don't see. Sorry.
Oh God, no. Sorry, I'll never do that again.
No, you're good.
Until next time.
There's so unlike the first game, which is all set in the maw, has this cohesion to the space. I can smell that from here.
Let's jump into this real quick.
Yeah.
Certainly doesn't smell as hoppy as the last one.
It smells a little bit like nutty, like kind of like roasted nuts.
It's even a little less hoppy than the last one.
Yeah, and it has that
interesting.
Does it have any barrel aging on it at all?
It doesn't give a ton of information.
Because it has that kind of syrupy,
cans.
That syrupy quality, that syrupy sweet quality you'll get on those. This isn't what I usually go for, and even this style is not my favorite. Like when hops are done in this kind of syrupy way, an IPA is done in this syrupy way, but. This is good.
Interesting. I wasn't expecting this. It's a weird balance of hops and I guess the nuttiness you're talking about. There's almost no citrus. Citrus are very common in IPAs.
That's a good point. Yeah, and I hate
it's
it
not
when
a
you
dry
get a super orangey IPA. Like
you don't like super orangey ones?
Yeah, that's Amanda's all about them.
Okay, you're gonna get that with the new Juice Goofin. Definitely. They label it here, alcoholic tang.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It's good. I really like the last one, or the next one, but I was not expecting this. It's not a dry hop. There's other things happening aside from citrus, which seem to be the most popular addition to IPAs right now.
That's fair.
I like this one a lot.
Yeah, me too. So I'll say that the only thing that I'll say is interesting about the game. Like, so the only thing that really sticks out is like, why would they change that? Because one of the only things they change is the visuals are kind of cleaner, more squeaky. Like, it's still a dilapidated, broken down environment, but like, I don't know, that paper mache quality is gone in a lot of spaces.
Yeah, that's I see that.
And I'm just gonna say that's a bad decision. Like, I think from my perspective as a player, I think it's a bad decision. I love that aesthetic, and it really. That's what I think of now when I think Little Nightmares.
It also loses almost entirely, I think, the diorama sort of point of view.
That's a good point.
Because it is one cohesive... nothing is really isolated.
Yeah.
You
can't see the borders.
Yeah. So it loses that quality, which is one of the best qualities about the what helps.
So now the
encapsulate
camera is
aesthetic.
just bad and doesn't do anything interesting at all. You know? And then
And that continues through the whole game?
the whole game.
I played a little over half.
The whole game. It has some interesting puzzles, but really, this is the weaker game. You lose that... Everything just kind of feels, okay, now we're in this place, now we're in this place, now they're in this place. There's not this, I'm still in the maw. Everything has this kind of visual cohesion. That's gone. Like, there is a visual cohesion, technically, but it's less interesting, and it doesn't flow well.
You know what I think? It's super subtle. You mentioned the ship, the maw being a sea vessel. I think something that adds to that cohesion is the slight movement of everything that you didn't even pick up on.
That's a good point.
But it's so subtle and
that's
subconscious.
a good point.
You don't have that here, obviously.
That's a good point. So that's really all I have to say about Little Nightmares 2. I thought it was an objectively inferior experience. I also
But
think
you can play it on Switch because the load times are non-existent, which is great.
Yeah.
And they need to be, because the trial and error is even worse. It's so bad.
Yeah, it's a lot more memorization. It's unfortunate. I would really only recommend this to people who just are really in love with Little Nightmares.
I would say watch that. Even if you do play and like the first one, maybe just watch the second one. I didn't like it. The aesthetic wasn't really doing it for me. I guess you hit the nail on the head. It doesn't feel the same. One, we just talked about that cohesion.
Yeah, that was a good point.
I didn't put anything together as to why I didn't like it. I guess I should do that. Take notes better. But that's definitely it. It loses a lot of the aesthetic appeal from the first one. The animations are still great. The music and the sound design still great, but none of the puzzles, at least in the 2/3 that I played, are particularly interesting. The environments are not. So I would avoid Little Nightmares 2. There are other games that you can fill your 3-hour window with that are better.
And this
that
one
we are
took
going
me.
to talk about.
This one took me longer than 3 hours. Little Nightmares 2.
Yeah, it's probably closer to 4.
Yeah, it's long, comparatively.
Certainly longer.
This has
than
grown
what it
on me a
used to be.
lot. This is like roasted pine nuts. This is fantastic.
I love this beer.
This is
if
really
they have
good.
some next time I go, I'm probably going to go next week or so. I'll probably
check Quality Takedown. This is good stuff. Let's move on though. Let's talk Dark. This is one you recommended. Why don't you open it?
So,
actually, let me say what my top note here is. Tim Burton.
Yes, 100%. Not ashamed to be a Tim Burton game, and we're gonna say something similar later, but this is basically if Tim Burton were to make a game. This is not inspired by Tim Burton at all. Like maybe a little bit of this. This is straight up a Tim Burton game. This is not a platformer at all. Again, not even a jump button. This is more a point and click adventure. The more modern take on point and click adventures, a lot of them use instead of actually pointing, you walk around and press the interact button in front of things. It's that newer style, which I've only noticed in the past maybe 2 or 3 years. So the classic adventure games, lots of puzzles, some of which are a little nonsense, like those very old ones. Like there's one point where you pick up a watch and it is the size of a watch. It's sitting on I think you get it out of someone's briefcase. Okay, there's no perspective shifts here. You walk up to a gap. I don't know what to do here. There's nothing I've only got this watch in my inventory, so I'm walking around the entire level, and then finally I'm like, whatever, I'll use the watch. And then you place down a bridge-sized watch. It's so dumb. But that's in the second chapter, so once you understand that, I was like, oh, okay, fine, I'll just use every item on every level, which is unfortunate. But the puzzles are not the biggest draw to this game.
Some of them are pretty good, though.
Some of them are good, especially in one of the chapters we liked less, the fourth chapter, the train. But let me talk about what the game is really offering here, and that is the way you traverse each level. It is about sort of almost perspective shifts. You're walking in a 2D plane. and you get to a wall, and you can press the interact button to flip the world, basically. So you're walking up this wall, and then flip it again, and now you're on the ceiling. And you've got to position things, make things fall. Maybe place something in an outlet that's on the wall and be able to flip it so it's hanging now.
Sometimes there's a lever on the floor that'll launch you
really
back
cool
into
yeah, backward or forward. That's
you can only move left and right.
Ones. Yeah, it is a 2D platformer.
Puzzle.
Yeah, it's a 2D plane. But yeah, you pull a little lever on the floor and you're just shot backwards to other parts, other planes.
And it's squeaky clean. It's not like, it's not this, half-assed thing where they just kind of, if the frame rate drops, whatever, it looks cool. Like,
no, it looks presented
nice.
So well. And my favorite one, so the
really
wall
good.
that you can walk up, and then the levers, those are used throughout the 5 chapters of the game. I'm going to take a break. The game. 5 chapters. It's an hour long. Maybe a little longer. The complete edition, which is actually the only edition you can buy, comes with 2 DLCs that make it somewhere around 3 to 4 hours, depending on how long it takes you to solve some of the puzzles. The game is $20. We don't talk about this often. This is one I would have a hard time recommending to most people, especially because the core game, by the time you see credits, you have spent $20 on 1 hour of gameplay. Usually people are looking at least the core game when they talk about the price. The DLC is a cherry on top. Know that the entire experience with the DLC can get you about 4 hours for the $20. It's a hard sell. It was on sale for $1.99, and I watched the trailer and was blown away. So that was an immediate purchase. If you find it on sale, $10 or less, absolutely get it. But that's the only time I'll mention that. It's not something we mention often, but and it's not something that I mind very much. I mean, I think I mind it way less than Zach. I'll spend $30 on a 2-hour game pretty easy. A lot of walking simulators are like that. But this one, even I was like, that seems like a hard sell.
It's a big ask.
Yeah. So that aside, let's get back to the puzzles. Those 2, the levers that shoot you back and forward in the space, and the climbing on the walls and the ceiling, turning the world. That is, those are used throughout the game and mixed up in interesting ways. The 3rd chapter is my favorite. And it only uses this mechanic once. It doesn't use either of the other ones. In the you're walking on a street, a street block in a neighborhood, and you come to the intersection. So it's 4 streets. At the street light, there's a lever you can jump up and pull, and you can pull either the left or right side, and it turns the entire world, depending on which lever you pull. So there are 2 sides to each of the 4 streets. So there are 8 2D planes you can walk on to solve these puzzles. And some of them you might have to, pull a lever over here to make this thing come up. And as it's dropping slowly, you've got to run back to the street light, twist the world around 2 times, and then run back. So now you can see what is inside of this elevator that's slowly, which you only saw the back of before. Now you can see what's inside of the elevator that is dropping and grab the item. Almost all of the puzzles are solved using this system, and dude,
it's incredible.
Well, the first time you do it, I was like, "Whoa, that was so cool!" And I was not even inebriated. I was like a little kid. And also, the first time you pull the lever in chapter, is that 4? That you
I don't recall which one, but absolutely.
6 chapters. That's right. It's chapter 4 for the levers.
Technically 7, but the last one's just one big set piece.
Oh, it's so bad.
Yeah, it's
so
really bad.
I mean, like Little Nightmares to Trial and Error, terrible.
Yeah, it's Guys, you don't need a set piece to sell your game.
Yeah.
You don't. It was
Those
wonderful.
puzzles were awesome.
Yeah.
It's a really, really good game.
That's not just Dark. I'm just talking to everybody. Like, don't worry about it. You don't got to be Nathan Drake. Like, it's okay.
Yeah. Oh,
It's
and that's what they're
not even
going
like that's
for.
superior. Like what you did is equally fantastic.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't say that for Dark specifically, but I mean, like, there are puzzle adventure games that I would put on the same tier as an action adventure game. You know what I mean?
So Dark is awesome. I look forward to playing the 2 DLCs. I spent the $2 for the sale, but then a couple days later, Limited Run had it for $35. So I spend way too much money on games. But when that comes in, I'll play the 2 DLC. It's another hour and a half.
I will mention too, because to mention how this game does horror, it's not really a horror game.
No.
It has some moments that are pretty creepy. So one of my favorite puzzles is you kind of show up and there's a maze, and you have to lead this ball. You can kind of move it one slot at a time through this maze, and so you're like, okay, and you start doing it like without thinking, like, oh, I'll find my way through this maze. It's really simple. And then the whole camera, like the camera turns away from you. You can't even see the puzzle anymore. Like, wait, no, I needed
or yourself.
That. Yeah.
It's turning around. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's like I wait, I need that, and then so you can't see anything.
But you can still turn it.
Yeah, you can still move it.
Do the puzzle.
So if you were paying attention, you can move your way through, and you see this old lady in a wheelchair just rolling towards you slowly, and it just keeps spinning over and over until she's there and kills you.
Faster and faster. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you know. I had to be like, okay, wait, I need to figure out like what my plan is. Go into the game plan.
Yeah.
Because she definitely got me. That was really good. Like, so it has moments that are pretty creepy, but very few far between.
Yeah, it's not a horror game. It's just a creepy aesthetic, a Tim Burton aesthetic.
Yeah, like I never call Tim Burton horror.
No.
Just like dark.
Yeah. That whole level is not one of our favorites.
No,
but
that moment's really
it
good.
Mixes the wall turning and the lever that shoots you backwards, which are typically used in a hallway. So like let's say you're in an apartment, you're walking down this hallway, and then as you get to the intersection of the hallways, you can pull the lever to get shot back to the next set of apartment rooms.
Yeah.
But when you're on the train, it's like 7 or 8 cars that you have to go between and solve different puzzles in each of them. But the entirety of the car is at your disposal. In one of them, you can close the door, or maybe a few of them. So you do walk on the wall, or like on the wall, then on the ceiling. But when you pull the lever, which they're all over, some of them are on the ceiling, or on the walls that you haven't been able to get to yet. So when you pull it, instead of being shot back, the car flips. So now you're walking on the car, and what was just your floor is now the background, and you can interact with things on that. It's really interesting.
Because that's the main gimmick of the game, right? Because anything else, it's literally just an adventure puzzle game.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. Which is... sounds
It's
bad to say it, that's it.
Yeah,
But
it's the perspective in which you have to solve the puzzles. It really, you got to wrap your brain around it.
Yeah, you get to think in a new way, which is fun. That's a good puzzle game.
Yeah,
Why do you think
I like
Portal
it a lot.
just knocked people's socks off? Because it's like, I haven't had to think like this before. You know?
Yeah, and I was mentioning the train level. You bring up Portal, I think, to good effect. It's not as brain busting as Portal. Think with portals is the slogan there. But really, you do have to think in a new way, especially when solving this puzzle. There is a current of electricity that's slowly flowing through these wires that it just wrapped around this entire car. And
just that electrician should be fired.
Yeah. So, but there's gaps in the wire, and you have to go hold either side, and like he gets shocked as the electricity passes through you. But it's everywhere on the car. You have to use all of the different, or I guess those two mechanics, climbing on the wall and then being shot back to turn the car. And you've got to do it quickly. You've got to think ahead. You've got to run around, and that one definitely stumped me for a bit. It took me a while to map where it was the entire place.
Yeah,
that was really good. That was I think the best use of those two mechanics, because they were not just the way to explore the world, which is mostly what they were used for up to that point. They were the fundamental puzzle solving of that little puzzle, which actually wasn't a puzzle, I guess. It was, well, yeah, it's a puzzle. Anyway, I think that's the best puzzle in the game. But chapter 3, where you turn the street block, the 2 street blocks, that's really awesome. It probably won't go down as one of my favorite moments this year, but really that was like drop the controller and sit back. Whoa, I was not expecting that. And then I just sat there for like 2 minutes shifting the camera because it's, you're right, it's
it's
clean.
not static, like stuff will move and fall.
Oh
and
yeah, like as you turn it, it's a force. So like a trash can will be knocked down or something.
Yeah, it's really
good. So good.
And that's really what the game delivers. You'll never find this in AAA. Just a short 1 hour dedicated experience, all built around very, very simple mechanics, a cohesive art design. Just this is what we wanted to make, and we made it.
Yeah.
And
so
it's
add
great.
it to your wish list. $20 is a hard sell for the maybe 3 to 4 hours you can pull out of it. With the whole experience, just the core game is an hour, unfortunately, which it doesn't overstay its welcome. So that's definitely a plus, but add it to your wish list. If you see it on sale, if the B-roll you've seen, if you're watching the video, if you've seen the B-roll and it's appealing to you, definitely check it out. I think it's absolutely worth your time. And actually one of my favorite games we played in this section.
Well, let's
this episode, rather.
Let's take a quick break.
Okay.
Yeah, we're about halfway through our beer, halfway through our games, so we'll take a quick break. Guys, make sure you check out our Patreon. It'll be a huge help for us. Keeps the lights on, as Tyler always says. Just $2 a month gets you into our Discord. Though, since we're still a young fledgling place, we will hopefully have some more open time for you to be able to jump in that Discord free of charge.
This month. It's going to be open. If you follow us on either Twitter or Instagram, you'll be able to get a link. And actually, we'll post it in the description. Definitely check out. Come join the community. Tell us about your favorite horror games. If you also were sort of haunted by Little Nightmares, as I was 4 years ago, come reminisce. It's a great game, and just share games that you love. So that's it. We'll join you, or we'll be back in just a moment. And we're back. Back with a new beer and back with some little bitty games. We have the new Juice Goofin', as I mentioned. This is the citrus. Now, it's not a ton of orange, so you'll probably like it. It is going to smell that way, however. I enjoyed this one quite a bit.
Good. I'm excited for it.
If you follow us on Instagram, you will have seen this just a couple days ago. I've had some in my fridge for about a month, maybe 2. But finally got around to drinking this, and then the next one as well.
Ooh, it's a little bit.
A little more if you want.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's a little sweet.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly what I was about to say.
I thought it was. I thought it was
like a
going to be like a
dreamsicle?
marshmallow. Yeah. I had one last year and also another one this year that are like orange and marshmallow. I've had a few really hit or miss. Dude,
okay.
Marshmallow in beer it's like a weird thing that maybe you should never say. Just put it in there and don't say it, because when you hear that your marshmallow or your beer has a marshmallow in it, you're probably going to be, shunned by your father. But that's okay. I'm not trying to impress my father. I can disappoint. I don't mind.
Well, this beer does not disappoint. So let's talk. So a lot of people who have been following us since the beginning, and by that I mean the 4 people, they'll know that our second episode is on walking sims. Games that that word can be a bad word for a lot of people, and
we do not mean it that way.
And if you listen to that episode, we have a deep respect for these games. We talk about them in different ways, though, I think. They are definitely unique experiences and should be treated as such, and can provide some incredible experiences. So these next 3 games are definitely going to fit that category a little bit more, and some of them entirely. But do you mind if I intro Faith?
Of course. Really take it away. I'm not going to have much to say. I might just nod and, smile and wave, boys.
Smile and wave.
But this is your deal.
Yeah, so I really, this game just, it was great. I had such a blast with it. I have a little bit that I want to talk about, but basically, so this game is done in an Atari aesthetic. It even has the creepy Atari like sound voice.
Yeah, the
thing.
weird like speak and spell voice.
Yeah, and my kid brother can do it perfectly.
Oh,
it's really
ew,
creepy.
it's gross.
Yeah, it's really creepy.
But I love when he does it so much. It's very
But
weird.
I genuinely got chilled a couple times, like chills, like because of how jarring and like it's an Atari game. It can't communicate things super clearly all the time. So something just happens sometimes. Like what? Like did you find that little pile? It's in a circle of stones, little blood splotch. And when you step on the blood splotch, it just says "Chaos Reigns" and then nothing else.
Oh, interesting. No.
Yeah, it's that was really cool, and you're just like, what?
There was no fox eating itself.
No. There is some sort of bloody mass that very well could have been a fox. Yeah, that was really cool.
A circle of rocks and a bloody mass. It was probably a fox eating itself.
Chaos Reigns.
Yes. Antichrist. Definitely a great family film that everyone should watch. Definitely bring it to your next Christmas or Thanksgiving gathering.
Chaos Reigns. So yeah, that was really cool. This another game that wears its influences on its sleeve. Very much The Exorcist. What I'm about to do has not been approved by the Vatican.
Yeah.
All that stuff. Very simple game. You walk and you hold a cross. The cross, when you hold it up against certain objects, will dump out notes that explain some kind of more lore pieces. To kind of put the pieces together yourself kind of game. And when the creepies come in, it has some sort of effect on them as well. And so the first thing that I noticed, I mean, when you have to basically wander through this forest, that the locations stay the same, but each like tile, as you move from tile to tile, will change. But the major locations are the same. You're trying to find a key so you can get in the house. And this is the house where the priest that you're playing as failed an exorcism with his instructor last year.
It is the house that the Lord has left.
Yeah,
that is for sure.
Yeah, it's super dark actually, but it's really good because there's this just randomly on certain screens this white creepy crawly person will just
one of the demons.
Yeah, and it's specifically spoilers. It's one of the kids has kind of become like this, and he's just this creepy white bunch of pixels that. And it just, the whole screen, it just this gross noise starts playing, like old video game static kind of sounds. And he'll just run towards you. And if you don't hold your cross up in time to make him run away, he'll kill you. And it cuts to this really creepy animation of him like wavy walking toward you. Yeah. And then it just immediately cuts to black. And all the like titles and even game overs in Latin. Mortis, like it's really good.
And when the creature runs on screen, all those crazy sounds happen. But then he'll be like, he'll also say some sort of line. Often you'll hear like "worship me," like "where is your father" or something like that.
Yeah, like really creepy.
Yeah.
It does a great job of being jarring. And the best part is there's this like really piercing, honestly, Atari style music playing the whole time. And the second you actually unlock the house and go in it, all of it cuts out. Mm-hmm. A really good touch.
I actually thought I restarted the game because I thought something had happened. Yeah. Because it actually didn't cut out for me when I entered the house. It was finishing the track, and I picked up the letter. I'm a very slow reader. I read the letter as soon as you walk in the house, and it stopped in the middle of reading the letter, and then nothing happened after that. I went in a few rooms. I was like, where are the noises? So I restarted the game because I thought that... it broke. It was not. It was very intentional.
That's funny. The scares are very well telegraphed too. Like if you're paying attention, you can see the guy outside that's about to jump in or whatever. Like you can see that stuff if you're paying attention. The little demon possessed girl, like a hand straight up bursts out of her hollowed out face. Like just really good use of these kind of more intimate visual sections where they kind of cut to non-Atari graphics and it's more just kind of old school. Just really well done.
It's definitely not. You mentioned maybe putting this on an Atari cart. I don't think that would work.
Yeah, I don't think it would work.
Because those are 3D models. The close-ups. Those are 3D models. Unfortunately, everything else is straight up Atari. But it's a 3D model with a pixelated outline to be able to do those fluid animations. So unfortunately, that would not work because I would love to do something like that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Put some weird stuff like Opossum Country we'll talk about. Put that on the Game Boy cart.
Yeah.
That would be pretty cool.
So I have this, and the horror is there. It's very much jarring. It's because stuff it's not clear exactly what's going on all the time. And I think that's to the game's benefit. Like, they work within the limitations. It's like, what is that supposed to be? Why is it oh my God, help me? Like, it's just this
God, no.
like it's just this little jarring moments. But it communicates its story well, very short, less than an hour. But in terms of what makes this fresh, like what does this game provide that a AAA game can't provide? Everything. But I mean,
yes,
because it's an Atari game. But I couldn't quantify it, so I just wrote this down. I said, it's hard to quantify why it's good. At first, it's the random attacks. They're all unceremonious. The music gets you more than anything else. And then the atmosphere is built by locations of significance amidst this ever-shifting forest. Chaos reigns. And then you scare yourself in the house while the music's cut out, waiting for something to happen. Then Amy attacks you and you have no rest. From room to room where it used to be quiet, wordless narrative. Where you used to be quiet, where you're hunting these wordless narratives. She hunting you. You come to the room where it all went down and have an honest-to-God boss fight. There are these endings, multiple endings, which I wish there were just like one ending. It would have hit harder, but the multiple endings are funny sometimes and interesting.
Which ending did you get?
All of them. It starts you right over at picking up the gun.
Yeah.
So I just did them all, but I think the best one's the first one where you kill her and you get arrested.
Where
for it.
is she?
Off to
I didn't do it.
She's off to the left. Basically, immediately as you leave the house, she's off to the left.
I actually had to restart because I pressed space to get out of the text box.
Oh no! And you shot the gun.
Shot the gun.
A gun with one bullet.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to quantify. I was genuinely scared at moments, but I also cared about the little priest guy, and the girl.
Yeah, I was
I don't know, it's hard to
very
quantify.
surprised by this game. It took me back to a time that I had forgotten about. A time, and I don't mean a time in video games, a time for me personally. A time that I had forgotten about and didn't think would ever happen again. So it did hit me in a particular way. I think this is an overused sort of cliche or motif. Kids under the blanket with a flashlight telling spooky stories. I did that very often. I'd have neighbor kids over, my sister's friends. They'd be over for a sleepover, and we'd all be sort of tucked under a blanket, and we'd pass around a flashlight and have we'd make our own choose your own adventure sort of stories, and we'd all have the flashlight and add one part of the story and pass it, and they'd continue the story, sort of like you do with those storytelling card games.
Yeah.
Very much like that. And I got those vibes from this game. It is not that, but somehow it put me under that blanket with a flashlight.
That's really cool.
Really bizarre, but it was actually kind of special. Like I was reading, I don't know, the third letter I pick up, and I was like, what's going on? I look over my shoulder to see what's there. It was really weird.
That's cool.
But I was happy to have that.
Yeah. And this game, it's not going to win any awards. It's not it's a small little experience. It does what it does and it moves on. Mm-hmm. But it is going to be a trilogy. The second game is out. The third one is coming out.
You can play a demo for the third one right now.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I don't know why you would.
Yeah, it's going to be this tiny little thing. But these guys, they're doing something not only just unique for the sake of uniqueness, but they're doing it well. And I think, you should support them. Just find them on itch.io, give them a tip when you download it. It's worth your time, I think.
It's definitely worth your time. It did not hit me the same way it hit you. But now that I'm actually saying that, quantifying that, that was a pretty special little moment. The 45 minutes I played.
Yeah, it's not going to break any records, not hit your top charts, but it's worth your time.
No, it's not even in my top 3 that we played here. I think it's your favorite one.
I think so, just because I'm weird and I like those kinds of
You're definitely
stories.
weird.
But if I'm being honest, it's not like it doesn't matter. I like it.
It was
a lot.
very good. I'm happy I played it, and I think you should too. Really, you can get it for free, but throw them $2. I think that's the default tip, and then you can select 0 if you want. But don't be that guy.
Don't be that guy.
0. You're the guy that goes from 18% to 12% on the default tip option.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, yeah, I liked it. But let's talk another game. This will be pretty short because the game was even shorter than Faith. Possum Country, which we have decided to call Possum County. And it's Possum County. It's seriously, it took me 15 minutes.
It is
I read really
15-minute
fast,
game.
so I just done.
I don't read fast, and it took 50. I have a full playthrough on Instagram. I have to reformat the size of the video, but it'll be up probably tomorrow. It is 15 minutes.
Yeah,
and I read slowly, which I mean, there's not a ton of text, but it is pretty exactly 15.
Yeah,
minutes.
I told my wife, "Hey, I need to go play this game real quick." She's like, "All right, well, hurry back down." And I come back down. She's like, "All right, you gonna start your game?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm done."
Yeah,
I'm done. It was.
Now you can do that with milk inside a bag of milk inside a bag of milk.
Do that.
15 minutes. I think you should play it.
Yeah, I want to. But this game, the aesthetic here is the Game Boy aesthetic, and it definitely nails it. You kind of go up. You're trying to deliver a pizza, and you stumble across this backwoods little community, and you start to find out things aren't quite as they seem. And it's over in 15 minutes. Really cool visuals. But really, I mean, that's it. If you're into that, then play it. And there's not really gameplay so much. You point and shoot some possums with a shotgun. But that's really cool visuals, little unique, weird story.
Yeah, there's not much to it. I was actually, I think we'd built it up too much in our head. Just like, oh, these cool, interesting little horror games. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fun. I wouldn't put it near Faith or anything. I think Faith is doing more.
And it's a browser game. It is free. 15 minutes. It's cool to see a Game Boy game made in 2020, which, I mean, it is a Game Boy game. You can download it for free at, I don't know if it's itch.io or if it's from the Opossum Country website, but you don't download an exe. You download a .gbc to be played in, I forget what the Game Boy engine is called, but you can play that on a Game Boy.
Yeah, which is cool.
Yes, I agree.
I like that. But that's all I have to say about that. Let's move on to the last game we're going to talk about before we get into these guys, these wonderful people. But let's talk Paratopic. Timeout. If you have not played this game, the maximum amount of money you can spend on it is $6.
Yes, it is currently on sale on Switch, which plays great on Switch for $1.99.
Please.
Or your regional equivalent.
40 minutes of your time.
Yes.
Please stop, listen to literally no more, and go play this game.
Or skip ahead.
Yeah. I mean, that's
But
fair.
we recommend it wholeheartedly. For me personally, I would actually recommend it over these. For some people. There are some people that just will not like it.
Yeah.
I will be able to, discern that and not recommend it. But if Faith interested you because it's weird and unique and a small little art house thing,
definitely stop.
This is that. It is an art house piece. And it's something special and
it's
unique.
the kind of thing that YouTubers make hour-long videos about, even though it's a 40-minute game.
Yes.
Like, please stop and play.
Yeah.
Moving on. Paratopic. This is a game that plays itself, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
It is not meant to be a challenging video gaming experience. It is meant to be an experience. It is all done in this dingy PSX style graphics. You can see those polygons. You can see them. And it has a lot of influences that it wears on its sleeve. But as you mentioned, Tyler said this to me and I loved it. He said, it doesn't do the surface level homage, right? It digs deep. It finds out why that thing that it's inspired by works.
Yes.
And it goes there.
And it is one of my favorite things, and that is the Lynchian aesthetic. This is not like we talked about earlier this year, Control. It does a lot of things that would find a happy home in Twin Peaks Season 4 or something else. It does a lot of that works.
The diner is straight up ripped out of Mulholland Drive on purpose.
Yes. But unlike Control, which is surface level representation of a Lynchian aesthetic, this Paratopic is to its core a David Lynch
it's not Lynchian,
video game.
it is a David Lynch video game.
If he made a game, it would be this.
And but then like throw in, music from Blade Runner. And like I would, if you played tracks from this game for me and told me it was from Blade Runner, I probably would believe you.
I hate myself. Have not seen Blade Runner.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
So I
Right there.
didn't pick that up. I have it.
Yeah, let's watch that immediately. It's incredible.
I fell asleep when we watched it.
Yeah,
It's a really bad
and
choice. We watched first Fountain. Great. Really great movie.
Then
One of my top
Tree
10.
of Life.
Then Tree of Life.
And then Blade Runner.
A triple feature.
Of some pretty slow films.
Very slow, especially Tree of Life.
That's
oh my
a
god! And
slow
what
one.
is that? 3 hours? 3 and a half?
Yeah.
Oh, is it 2.5? Well, freaking feels like 3.5.
I like Tree of Life.
Oh, so do I. However, it's so slow.
My favorite Malick movie is still Thin Red Line. If you haven't seen that, you gotta watch it. It's good stuff.
No.
But anyway, all that to say, you're totally right. And what this game delivers is more than just being a ripoff of an aesthetic or two. It is very much its own experience. It doesn't answer all of its questions. There are some visuals that elicit like Cronenberg. And it is, for me, what this game is we'll get into it a little bit later, but I think it is more of this philosophical horror. This idea of existential horror is what I'm going to call it, and I'll talk about it a lot when we get to Inside. But this idea of existential horror, you're flipping between these perspectives and times, and it'll drop right at like critical moments and just immediately no fade, anything.
No,
just
just for
touch
some
you.
reason you're in a car. You'll be in the middle of a text block that's filling out with the conversation, and you'll just cut to the car is parked, and I was just in a diner, now the car's parked, the trunk is open, and I can pick up my camera.
Ragnarok has a great video on this where he talks about it, that effect of just your mind has chosen this is not important information, I'm going to dump it, and then all of a sudden you're at your destination.
Yeah.
Like,
and
it's
I
really
want to finish the thought from just a bit ago.
Oh, go ahead.
One of the reasons, if you're a David Lynch fan and you look at things that try to deliver that sort of aesthetic and think to yourself, they just don't get it. This does. Like Control, yeah, sure, those things are fun. The one of my favorite moments is the office that had the like sentient sticky notes that multiplied itself, and it's an office filled with sticky notes. That would happen in Twin Peaks. The weird refrigerator that has a universe inside of it. That's weird. That would probably show up in fact, I think something like that does happen in season 3. Season 3 is nuts.
I haven't seen any of it
I have
yet.
not finished it.
I've not seen any of it.
I got halfway through it and realized, I'm not mentally prepared for this. When there's an episode that shows the creation of Cooper's soul. And I was like, I have to leave. I am not in the right headspace.
I'm so ready for this. I need to
We
watch
should
it
watch it
immediately.
sometime.
Dude, let's seriously, when man is out of town someday, let's just binge it like a whole weekend.
Yes, I mean it's long. It's 10 hours, but yeah, some weekend, I guess. Anyhow, unlike many other things, this is to its core, because of the jarring cuts, the lack of answers, the dirty aesthetic. I said earlier that I would bring it up again. It's dirty in the same way that a David Lynch movie feels dirty. And I don't mean like, the content. It's not adult. But what I mean is there's just something that like when whoever was making it didn't wash their hands. There's something about it that this game elicits.
Yeah. And so just as a premise, there is the core MacGuffin is this contraband. It's these videotapes. And you're not really quite sure what they are, what they're for.
Like a drug.
Yeah.
There's someone in one of the like the third or fourth scene. There's someone, a neighbor, your apartment neighbor. She's like, "You got some of the videotapes? Give me some of those videotapes."
Did you give it to her?
No.
Yeah, me neither. I watched What Happens If You Do.
Well, I'm gonna play it again because
Okay.
I didn't capture footage, so I'm gonna choose all the things I didn't choose.
Okay.
Like I picked up the gun, not the camera. I'll see if anything happens there.
I don't think you can pick up the camera.
Well, anyway, I'm gonna do the things I didn't.
Yeah. So it reminds me. There's a book by David Foster Wallace called Infinite Jest. Really, really good book. And the core of that is basically, it's called Les Samizdat. And I butchered that, I'm sure. But it's The Entertainment in French. And it's a videotape filmed by the main character's dad. And the main character's dad was obsessed with kind of perfection and beauty. And he managed to create something that is so visually appealing that anybody who watches it will not do anything else and will just die if they're not watching it anymore. It reminded me a lot of that. It's
Interesting.
Yeah, like basically if they don't have it, they'll just waste away and won't do anything. It's basically the idea of like, well, why don't we all just do that? Like, if that's the end of life, why don't we? If feeling good is all that matters in life, then why don't we just all do that? And of course, his take is there are more important things. But it's really interesting.
Obviously, that was not my take because I am a stupid dum-dum who no read.
Sure, but like I that book I read a while ago now, and it stuck with me. So that hit me pretty close. I was like, oh, that works. I like that. But my favorite part of the game is what I have found to be pretty much everybody else's least favorite part of the game, which is the long sections where you're literally just driving.
Oh, those are very interesting.
Yeah, so you'll find the stuff on your passenger seat is rotating, basically showing that you're changing your perspective of who you're driving as, basically. And there won't even be a cut. It'll just all of a sudden there'll be a gun on your seat or a box of videotapes or nothing.
And does changing the radio station affect
So this
that?
is what I wrote. The quiet downtime, just driving, swapping between perspectives.
Yeah, I like that time because
Is the game waiting for me to do something, or am I just along for the ride? Let me try fiddling with that radio again. You know, like it's just this feeling, this PT style feeling of like, I gotta be doing something wrong. Like, what am I supposed to be doing right now? You know, I
like
it,
that they are there.
Yeah, me too.
Definitely.
And it gives you some downtime to think about what's happening, and you need it because literally every other scene is just pop, 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 pop. Like so much happens in it, and there's so much weird dialogue. And I'm gonna play this game again for sure.
I'm so happy we played it. That was not even just a last minute edition. We were already. This was just a couple days ago. We were 2 weeks into the episode playing these games, and I was like, hey, I'm not gonna finish Little Nightmares. I think I'm gonna play Paratopic. And you're like, wait, what? Don't stop what you're doing.
Yeah, I've been wanting to play this game for a while.
I didn't
now.
know. You'd never mentioned it before.
Yeah. It's just been on my back burner for a while.
Yeah, me as well. I read like the first paragraph of an article, 2019 or 2020.
Yeah, it was a video
soon
for
after
me.
it came out, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna close that tab right now and buy this game.
Yeah, it's
So I did, but then I found
and
it
the
on
best
Switch
part
for
is
$1.99.
it's all in the details, right? Everything is in the details of this game. You can just see something in the distance that tells you a little bit more about what's going on, or might confuse you more, right? There's
probably confused.
it's all there. You know, if you're looking, it's in the distance or it's over your shoulder. Like it's all there. It's so densely packed with information that it would take probably 4 playthroughs to really generate a solid understanding of what's going on. And I love that.
That's great.
Dude, the final visual
really good.
too. The final visual, it's basically like this right, the one of the characters has been just mutilated and impaled on a spike, but it's not even her, it's like this like gooey, fleshy substance if she's been turned inside out, and you're just looking at that. It's gonna stick with me. That's good stuff.
Yeah, I'm very happy we played it. I'm a big surprise, like milk inside a bag of milk inside a bag of milk. I'll say that title all the way every time.
Yeah, because why would you not?
The sequel is
Saying it takes as long as playing the
outside a
game.
bag of milk, outside a bag of milk. Which I really hope it's a direct sequel, and he sort of the develop. Oh, she may. I don't know. Anyway, the developer sort of takes that character and develops the character and helps her escape her, I guess, like mental prisons. Because the screenshots that you can wishlist the game now show a character like a dating sim or a visual novel. Like the character is there. There's a character portrait while you're talking. That's not the case with this game. It is pretty much all text and some visuals above the text. But in the sequel, I'm hoping it is actually a sequel and not a follow-up. But anyway, milk inside a bag of milk inside a bag of milk.
Well, why don't we move on to PlayDead?
Let's do that. Let's also move on to our second to last beer. We have the Liquid Bake Sale. This is a grisette with Italian
grisettes.
plum puree.
Whoa, that's going to be a big boy.
One. This is a good beer. I drank this
Is
just
it
a
a
couple
sour
days ago.
grisette?
It is a sour grisette, most definitely.
Yeah, I've had some that are tart, not sour. You know?
Oh, yeah. Okay, it's tart.
Okay, got it. Yeah. Because I've had some that are pretty like, whew.
No, it is not a sour beer.
I can smell that from here again. For those listening, we sit really far apart. No, I'm just kidding. I just don't like Tyler.
I loved this. I was very surprised by it.
Give it to me! Thank you.
Oh, God.
You just wasted... I'm just kidding.
I almost said an oopsie. Oh, that didn't go on your floor if you're wondering. So
we're stuck in some kind of limbo.
No.
I'm so sorry. This is great.
Yes, I'm very happy I got to have this and get to share it. This is the Liquid Bake Sale, the grisette with Italian plum.
I'm jealous of the table that you spilled it
puree.
on. This is really nice. It's very delicate. It tastes grapefruity a little bit too.
This is not as tart as the can that I drank just a couple days ago. Interesting.
What I took from that is you're a liar.
Yeah,
Filthy liar.
I am.
This is great though.
Heathen pagan devil worshiper.
Heathen pagan devil worshiper. Okay, let's talk Limbo, man. So you have been preaching PlayDead to me for a long
I have. I grew up in what I think. I'm going to take this time. I'm going to take this damn time.
I'm
okay?
just gonna take a back seat here and take a sip. Spill
I
this on myself.
am so happy to be the age that I am and got to live through what I think is the best period of time in video games, bar none. And that is 2008 to 2012. That is when Xbox Live Arcade opened the floodgates to the indie scene. With things like, though I think Bastion was just after, it was a little late. Bastion, Braid, Limbo, Hotline Miami, Fez, Super Meat Boy, the indie games, the movie crew. Those are the big names, of course, but so many others that people clamor for the collector's editions now on the usual suspects that make the physical editions. I grew up experiencing those in real time, and Limbo was something that blew me away. I bought this. This is the first. I think it's the first game in my collection. I had some stupid collector's editions like Assassin's Creed 2 and whatever. I had spent some money from GameStop, but I played Limbo just after launch, and this came out just after, and I thought to myself, this is something special. I should have that. And it's not the same anymore, because any indie game worth its salt gets a physical edition with some art inside or whatever. This is one of the first, and I thought it was a pretty special little thing to
It's
have.
a pretty edition.
It's very pretty. The UK edition is even nicer. Either I have lost mine, or the US release didn't come with one. It comes with an off-white slip.
Nice.
It goes around the middle. There's a circle around the cut out for the title. Anyway, you can still get it for like $30. It's very nice. Anyway, I have been preaching about this game for a long time. I did make him play it back in the day. This is my 4th playthrough maybe, and 3rd for Inside. But I think they're doing something very special, and to my knowledge, we're first to market with this sort of horror experience.
Yeah,
which
2D
Limbo is barely
puzzle
horror.
platformer.
Limbo is not in the way the other 2 games are.
Yeah, it's not trying to scare you. It's just dark.
Yeah, it's definitely unsettling. Kids dying, the spider. Everyone knows the spider. Excuse me. But I want to know. I actually didn't know you had played it. I completely forgot that you.
Well, I'd never finished it.
Oh, you didn't?
Yeah, I
Okay.
played it before.
So I love this game. I think it's 2.5 hours. You can play it 3 hours maybe. Play it in one sitting. It is not intended to be played in one sitting, but you can do it, and you'd be better off for it. Like Little Nightmares is about the not so much individual set pieces, but the overarching sequences. You got the spider scene, or the few scenes with the spider. You get the few scenes with the tribe of kids killing each other. Then you've got the few scenes with the gravity puzzles, and then it ends. And it's good. There are some set pieces in there. There are some not, really brain-busting puzzles, but the sound design, as I mentioned earlier, with all of this style of game, that's hugely important. The animation, in this case, typically with the death animations, and the overarching, the overall visual cohesion, deliver this experience. And I think it's lovely. I'm so happy. I forgot I had this until just a couple days ago. This is a little piece of history. I think it's one of the first indie collector's editions I think was released. But tell me what you think about Limbo, Zach.
See, the first thing that I noticed in Limbo was the focus of the camera is almost like eyelids flickering to try to stay awake. It's like this fading oval.
Interesting, yeah.
Around the edges, and that's.
I never connected that. I never made that visual, but you're definitely right.
Yeah,
it is a vignette.
Yeah, it's really unique.
That does take on sort of an eyelid feel.
And the way it does horror is interesting because, like, it's little ways. Like, how you barely can clear a bear trap when you jump over it. Like, you have to really get close to it and jump.
Yeah.
Like, there's little moments. That's where... horror is in the details in Limbo. And I enjoyed that quite a bit. I did get frustrated a couple parts. Because many parts are meant to be trial and error. It's built around that in a lot of areas. I don't think it's a bad thing necessarily. It shouldn't always be a bad word. Some things are very much... can operate and work well within that, especially when designed around it. But it did get frustrating in a couple parts, I won't lie. But overall, just an absolute treat for the eyes, for the ears. The music reminded me of Stalker.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, music reminded me a lot of Stalker. There really is this kind of oppression to it, like when you encounter the tribesmen or whatever who are trying to kill you, and everything is trying to kill you. Like, nothing is friendly in this game.
No.
It
does get a little bonkers. Like, I forgot there were machine guns that you need to with lasers that activate the bullets.
One of my
That was
favorite
weird.
parts is there's a worm that gets stuck on you and forces you to go one direction until it gets exposed to light, and so you kind of have to think around that puzzle situation. Some really unique puzzles there. The gravity puzzles you can basically control, and when a box will go up or down, basically reverse gravity or normal gravity. Some interesting puzzles there. Nothing that in the puzzles themselves that would make it stand out otherwise. It really is that the world and how everything is a shadow. You know what I mean? Like everything is black with some, light in the background, some contrast here or there. Yeah, it's a game that I will be playing again, a game that I think is easy to recommend to people. One that I think wears its badge well.
It does. And you've said something that I would like to sort of expand on a bit, and that is the trial and error not really being a huge negative here, but it is here. And that's because the game is more about the puzzles and then occasionally a few set pieces. Whereas, and you illustrated this point better, and maybe you can jump in there, but because of the focus of this game's design, the trial and error here...
This being Little Nightmares for the listeners.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The trial and error nature of the set pieces here in Little Nightmares don't work to great effect, whereas they do in Limbo.
Agreed.
Why is that?
So, I guess what really stands out to me is, from Little Nightmares' perspective, the game is not built around trial and error. It's very much built around trying to suck you into this world, and that's where the main draw is for this game. So dying in a game like that will suck you out immediately.
Yeah.
And so if you try to use trial and error, you're going to have to communicate really clearly and exactly what needs to be done from the player, and maybe go a little easy on them sometimes, give them a little bit of a break here or there, to keep the tension high, to keep your engagement high. Limbo doesn't need that. Like, Limbo is about dying. You will start maybe 5 feet from where you died. Like, you're encouraged to die and try to figure out what's going on. It's just a part of the game, and again, it's Limbo. You kind of accepted this state and place where you're at.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It is like you said, it is about the puzzles. The puzzles are the core. You are not trying to progress through this world for the sake of the world itself.
Yeah,
like each moment is a puzzle.
Yeah, and the puzzles will kill you.
And your life is easily thrown away for the sake of just trying to figure out how the puzzle works.
Yeah.
In Little Nightmares, it's like, oh, I don't want to die. Like, I don't want to die right now. Like, I want to get through this. I want to figure out what's going on. Like, I want to keep moving forward.
The trial and error in Limbo is almost like, I guess maybe this is a poor example because everyone other than me, I'm like seemingly the only person in the world that likes these sort of puzzles, but the like hacking mini game in BioShock,
I hate it.
When you get shocked, when you fail it, you get shocked and kicked out of the puzzle, and you can try again. It's sort of like that here. You fail the puzzle, you get kicked out, and you try again, for the sake of that one room, which is one puzzle, and that's it.
And it's part of the world to just kind of fade right back into going at it. Little Nightmares, it's not. It sucks you out immediately of the world. The cohesion's broken. It seems to be a running theme, actually, cohesion. It's important to games like these. And
we will talk about that in a moment, or now if you want. I don't have much to say. Coming in 11 years later, or maybe it's only been 10 years, but we can't add too much to the conversation for Limbo.
It's all been said.
I don't really have much to say. If you haven't played it, anytime there's a Steam sale, you can get it for $2.50. Get Limbo.
And it's, in terms of a gaming literacy, which, is something that I've been thinking about a lot more lately, and, being able to really hold intelligent conversations about video games, I'd argue it's an important one. Not only for the reasons you listed, but the way it sticks with people because of the visual style, because of the random moments of child violence that happen. Like, it sticks with you.
Like, there's the general, like, they're like all scrawny little emaciated kids, but there's one of them, you're progressing through this puzzle, and there's some trial and error to solve the puzzle, and you get to the end, and then this little kid runs out in an army hat that's too big for him. You've seen it before, this motif, just this army hat shaking around on this little kid's head, and he points, and two guys with spears running at you. We'll definitely pour that in just a moment.
I'll pour it so you can introduce.
Sure. and you have to go back through the puzzle that's gonna kill you, and you have to allow them to get killed. It's really dark.
Yeah.
And then,
But subtly so.
yeah,
Like-
well, I don't think it's that subtle. You know, kids
Comparatively to
getting
Little
impaled-
Nightmares?
Oh
Or
yeah,
like, I mean, it's very...
Well, okay, subtle. I don't know if subtle is the right term. It's Little Nightmares is grotesque. This is unsettling in a way that Little Nightmares is not, because it is typically child violence, or so slow. You know, the spider creeping up on you and
Just
finally
impaling you.
getting you.
Yeah. I get what you're saying. I mean,
Maybe I'm not quantifying it correctly. I'm not illustrating my point, but
I could probably pick a better word, but I do
Little
think
Nightmares
it's...
is more blatantly horrific, where Limbo is unsettling.
Yeah. And you can ignore it, though. Like, I think that's something about Limbo because of the shadow visuals and how it works. I think you can ignore the... Like, if you just don't want to engage with it, I think it's a game that you could go through and just go, "No, that was a cool little platformer." Like, if you just don't engage with that or think about it because of the shadows and how it's done, like, "Oh, this is a puzzle. Let me get through it somehow." But for those who have a little empathy, like, it's rough.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned something else that is a topic I like, and that is gaming literacy. I never really thought about it like that. You know, having this wide array of experiences in video games under your belt. Like, there are a few that I've missed. We're finally going to play
Silent Hill
at the
1
end of
and
this.
2.
Yeah, at the end of this series, Silent Hill 1
finally.
and 2. I have not played a Metal Gear Solid game.
You haven't played Bayonetta.
Sure. I don't think that's, something as important as Silent Hill.
Maybe, but I think moving forward, it could very well climb that ladder.
Maybe. Yeah, we'll see, because we'd like to play it very much so. But I don't think that's as important.
No, you're right.
as
You're
Silent
right.
Hill, or even Limbo. Actually, I would say Limbo
Agreed.
is more important than that. But when I say gaming literacy, I'm almost always talking about mechanics. The example I always go to is Katie came in the room while I was playing. My wife, that is, she came into the room when I was playing Breath of the Wild, and she's like, what's that stupid green blob in the middle of the screen?" And as a gamer, I never have to question what a depleting green resource is, or a red resource, or a blue resource. I know what those things are. I know what, typically, with few exceptions, what button will shoot, how to run, how to crouch. Unless you're Nintendo, you're typically not having to teach people what these things are because of your literacy of video games. You can pick up a controller; it's second nature to you. The only thing that as a I guess literate gamer that you might have to get used to is picking up a Nintendo controller to an Xbox controller.
Sure,
takes a couple presses to remember. Oh, A and B are switched.
Yeah.
But yeah, having
there's definitely we need
lexicon the right word? Having an expansive lexicon?
I don't think so.
Okay, I mean,
a canon, that'd be closer. Like, I think of the Western literary
what
canon.
What is lexicon? What does that mean?
Think dictionary, kind of.
Okay.
Yeah, think more like dictionary.
I guess then what I was saying a moment ago would be more appropriate for that. Like
maybe
the endurance bar.
I don't know. We could maybe find a way to talk about it usefully because we talk about it enough, But I think there is the idea of so there's the Western literary canon, Moby Dick, the Don Quixote.
Yeah, I don't typically talk about
Right?
that. That's interesting, and I would put Limbo in there.
Yeah, and it's what is the gaming canon? What is the gaming canon? And it's never going to be a static list. Like, even with books, it's never a static list. Everybody's gonna have their own opinion, but we've talked about maybe doing episodes on something like that. Like, what is the canon? So we can touch on it.
There are things that are in everyone. Shakespeare.
Yeah. Shakespeare, Moby Dick. Those things will be in everybody's literary canon.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Western
literary
what is
canon.
something that would be just one game or developer that would be in every canon?
Super Mario 64.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
That goes to answer. Duh.
Yeah.
Stupid
That's
idiots.
the.
I don't even ask that dumb question.
Yeah, I think that's
That
the
game is still so good.
Yeah, and
I played it last year and had fun with it.
Yeah,
So much fun with it. Unlike anything from the PlayStation 1, aside from Final Fantasy games, 2D stuff. This was one of the first 3D platformers that did not use tank controls and is still stellar. I don't get it.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense how good it is.
Seemingly impossible.
Yeah.
To be as good
as Mario 64.
Yeah, and there are games that, of course, I like more that are better than Mario 64, but to be as good as Mario 64 when you come out today is seemingly impossible.
Yeah, it's incredible and is influential. Like,
yeah,
wow.
I don't know if I'm illustrating that point very well, but for something to be as, I don't even mean influential, something that comes out today that you
and
can,
it's just that fun,
that can be and feel as good in 25 years. What?
That's a testament, man.
What could it be that comes out today?
I think
I don't know.
I mean, but there are some others that I'd say would probably be on everybody's list. That are
Final Fantasy 2.
Don't say those words. No, but I mean, Dragon Age 1 probably would be
interesting
because it was the first game to do that.
Please, nobody say. In fact, whoever decides that Ocarina of Time should be on that list, please look in the description, join our Discord, and let us argue.
Let's have a conversation. Actually, if we're talking about the canon, I think I might put it in there because of what it did at the time, not because of what it is today.
Yeah, but what it did at the time was completely overshadowed less than a year later. I would put Majora's Mask on there.
Sure, but
it's a better game in every way. It's more interesting in every way. It didn't even do anything interesting for 3D games that Mario hadn't already done. It was just different for Zelda.
No. I think it did, because if you look at the way that open environments were pursued and the way that adventure games were pursued after that, I think you make an argument. All that to say, I am on that page. Majora's Mask is 10 million times better than Ocarina of Time. No questions.
We would put this on here, but do you think that we played it just earlier this year, Outer Wilds could go on that list?
I think for something like a canon, it needs time. And I don't know if I would. But, because there's a difference between me personally loving a game and, like, the canon. This is what you should read, for, like, I'm thinking for books. Like, this is what you should read if you want to understand what Western literature is and what is important about it and why it matters, right? I could make it, for that why it matters part, I could probably make an argument for Outer Wilds, but I don't know yet. Let's just do it, man. Let's do it. Let's both compile a list, bring it together.
Join the Discord and let's hash it out as a community. Let's hash it out. Of course,
the
Mario 64.
Video game canon.
So we would maybe want a game or two from each console of each generation. Probably.
Well, I don't even think we should limit it like that. Just like
no,
what
we shouldn't.
games are in.
But I think it'd be pretty easy.
Oh, but make it so that we could think about all of them. I get what you're saying. Yeah. So we can engage with.
We don't even
PSX
need a PlayStation 1 and 64 game. But you're right. We don't need all that. With those limitations,
Deus Ex would definitely go on there.
Deus Ex would go on there, absolutely.
MGS one for cinematics, like that's the huge thing it added, was like a cinematic approach to cameras and storytelling and visuals.
Sure, it did all those things. So I don't even know if we would probably have to whittle down a definition, because from everything you've told me about the Metal Gear Solid series as a whole, and this is a very odd choice for me, it sounds like maybe Metal Gear Solid 4 would be the better choice for the canon.
I don't know. Maybe I can see an argument for 2, maybe, or 3. I don't know. We'll talk about it. It'll be fun. Let's move on.
It's an interesting conversation. I think we can continue.
Let's do a bonus episode. We talked about it. Let's do a bonus episode.
We will definitely move on here to our last game, Inside.
And I'll let you introduce it while I pour Hold Out to Flight Go Dark Brewing. What is it?
Oh, yeah. Don't read the can. That's what this is for. This is the Hesky Chesky Dark Lager.
Okay, wonderful.
I haven't heard of a
We
Czech
are-
dark lager.
Yeah, this is the tall, dark, and handsome Hesky Chesky. What a name. Like most of these.
But yeah, introduce what is one of your favorite games. Tyler.
What is? Not
A
top
game.
10, but
A game that's really special.
It's far up there. And that
One
is
you've been wanting me to
Inside.
play for a long time.
Yeah, I mean 5 years now. Since it launched in 2016, I got it on launch. Obviously, I loved Limbo. I was so excited, and oh my god, this studio takes so much time with
Good.
their games. They just released their the first trailer 2 months ago, so it's been 5 years before they even announced another game, which was also the case with Inside, but. This is following that tradition that Limbo really paved the way for. Little Nightmares picked up some of that, and or maybe Little Nightmares came out after Inside. That's right. So really, there wasn't much between Limbo and Inside, but Inside's doing something much different. And Zach and I are going to disagree here a bit. But I think
Not disagree, just in terms of, I think it's a terms of like scale.
Sure. Inside is doing something that I don't think many other games are doing or can do even. And there are some things that hit differently for Zach and I. But I do think that this is one of the better crafted games in the entire medium. It's not one of my, well, I guess you could say all-time favorites, talking about top 25.
Oof. That's my boy.
What? Okay,
That's
so we're gonna
malty.
take a moment. I love malty beers.
Dude, this is
let's
malty and
get some of this water
delightful.
first.
Yeah, this is it's pretty much straight up just roasted, like toasted malts and
And I don't have malty beers very often. I'm so focused on hops. That's all the rage these days. Has been for a long time. And then of course I love farmhouse ales. I started, my first craft beer was a Bock. Do you even call it craft anymore? Ziegenbach.
I don't know.
It's a Texas classic.
Sure.
But Shinerbach and then Ziegenbach, and actually you'll see on Instagram tomorrow, found a new Bach from Martin House. Do you remember Martin House?
Yeah.
I've been drinking a lot of their beers this week. I think I had 7 of their beers.
They'll forever be the pickle beer people.
Sure, but that I think it was the plum sour we tried earlier this year was awesome.
Yeah.
And then I've had 6 or 7 beers, including a Bach from them. That's awesome. Anyway, I like malt beers. I don't have them often enough. Now I'll take a sip.
Do it.
And the foam from a malt
Yeah,
beer.
this is delightful.
It's so good, dude. That's a good beer.
Agreed.
I think the koala takedown is my favorite. That was the most interesting.
But then this one for me.
I see that the liquid bake sale. Yeah, I'll move this one over here. The liquid bake sale was different than the one I had just a couple days ago. That would probably be my favorite if there was some consistency there. But the koala takedown and then this, I think we agree there. So Inside, it is a 2D platformer. There's some jumping around from platform to platform. It's very light on the puzzles, and in fact, Zach had to talk me down a bit, but finally agreed that I think the game would actually benefit from fewer puzzles. He definitely thinks that fewer puzzles would benefit this game greatly. Not that it needs much to elevate it, in my opinion, but it is doing something that none of these other games in this style are doing. But I want to hear from Zach, as I often do. I already love this game. I think it's one of the most well-crafted games I've ever played. And this being my 3rd playthrough, and I think 7th time playing through this one segment, it still holds true. Even 5 years later, there's a segment here that I do think is one of the absolute best crafted moments, just a sequence of events in video games. But go ahead and take it away. Tell us what you think, Zach, and how it holds up in this space.
Yeah, it's the best game of all of them, no question. I think that's just... I'd even argue leagues. I
would agree with that.
I think even not in this space, it is one of the cleanest, most well-paced, well-designed video. I think pacing is so key to why this game succeeds.
Absolutely.
Because every moment... And that's why I wish there were fewer puzzles or some shorter sections, because I think the only detriment is when you kind of get in the way of... Don't ruin the pacing, but when you get in the way of that pacing, like just this... basically, you are just pressing endlessly to the right. Endlessly to the right. It's a 2D space, even though it's a 3D environment, and you're pressing endlessly to the right. And I'm going to come back to that a little bit later. But what I wrote here, it's the cleanest of all these games, and even some cleanest among other games that I just put extremely high. Like, the reason I don't like this game as much as you has nothing to do with its quality. It has entirely to do with just what checks your boxes and what checks mine.
Okay.
That's it. I can say very little negative about this game. There is no trial and error.
All spoilers moving forward, by the way.
Yeah, and please stop. Play this game if you haven't. Seriously. Of anything. This is the one I recommend most of all of them. Please play this game.
I recommend this to the most people, but if you can find those particular people, like I called Oliver and ranted this morning about Paratopic.
Sure.
There are some people that I would recommend.
Even then, for me, I'd still say inside. Like, people should play inside. But it's very sterile world. The pacing is building the world. Basically, you're on the run from grown-up men who are chasing you with flashlights and dogs, and it in a weird way it evokes a very 1940s Germany, Nazi occupied France.
Interesting, yeah.
Kind of aesthetic
Definitely
in a
see
lot
that.
of ways, but it's also very sterile. It's a sterile dystopia. These whites and these squeaky clean, they're dilapidated, but they're clean. It's very bizarre. It's a unique... You compared it to Okja and something else as well.
Rupture Farms.
Rupture Farms.
Specifically Rupture Farms, not all of...
But cleaner than
Abe's
Rupture
Odyssey.
Farms.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the sort of like...
The ideas.
The gritty processing plant sort of thing, it has similar vibes. And then, the end of Okja, I was like, oh, we're in a Rupture Farms movie right now.
Yeah.
Did you ever see that movie?
I never did, but I know exactly... I know what it's about. Yeah.
I loved that movie. Probably more than most people. I talk about it all the time.
But I mean, the goals for each environment are communicated very clearly. The puzzles are intuitive without being obvious. I won't steal it from you, but some of the puzzles in this game are absolutely brilliant from every standpoint. Auditory, visual.
And I don't even think they're puzzles. They're especially the one I'm talking about.
But they're not set pieces either. Like,
I definitely wouldn't call the one I'm talking about, which we'll get to in a moment. I wouldn't call that a puzzle. It's a little trial and error-y, but...
not even. Like, you're just kind of... It's about progressing through. You know the obstacle, you know how to stop it, and you move through it. More puzzly than anything else, but I wouldn't call it a set piece. It's not scripted. Like, you are very much involved in...
okay, so it's a weird thing. Because I definitely don't think it's a puzzle.
It's built on a puzzle foundation, though. I think we can both agree on that. Like, the foundation of what's going on there, if you break it down into its smallest parts, I think is a puzzle. But you're right. Calling it just a puzzle is doing a disservice. You're not just, looking at the components, trying to figure out what's going on. There's an urgency there. Mm-hmm. But we'll get to it. I'll let you go on that. But, so the one thing that I want to make sure I touch on, because I've kind of touched on everything. This game is great. It's a wonderful video game. The only thing that, you've already mentioned some of my little mini critiques that are so minor. It really is just a matter of personal preference, whether this game really clicks for you or not. And it did partially click for me, but definitely not as much as Tyler. The aesthetic.
And not till the end, really, right?
And that's what I want to talk about. I think the ending of this game is absolutely brilliant. Because there's an answer to why you are pressing endlessly to the right. And you basically find this massive blob of arms and legs that is obviously being used to create these drones that you've seen, these human being drones that you've seen throughout the game. And you set it free and are either amassed into it or reamassed into it. It's hard to tell.
Interesting.
I think most people say that you're amassed into it, but
yeah, I never thought you'd be reamassed.
But like for me, my first thought was, oh, this is just a part of it that got away. But it makes more sense that it's just
because a part of it that got away would just stand there and wait for commands, like the things that are built from it.
But either way, you then crash out and play as this massive blob thing. It has a name. The fans gave it a name. I forget.
Oh, yeah?
The Huddle. That's what they call it. The Huddle.
The Huddle. Interesting.
Yeah. It's a
like
great
that name.
But what this did for me from a horror perspective, because it's not really a horror game until that moment.
Yeah.
And what makes this horror is what I mentioned earlier. Existential horror is what I call it. This mindlessly pressing on to the right to find out what's going on. Why am I doing this? Why am I here? Only to be amassed into this creature and to stop existing, and just to be a part of this huddle now, and then to move forward and escape. And you don't even know why you're like, why am I even moving? I don't want to be this creature. Why am I doing it? And you just keep doing it. Like, it's this weird kind of meta existential horror moment that I think for me is what solidified the game as, okay, they're doing something really special here. And only reflectively did I realize, oh, it's also just basically flawless, like in terms of how it's paced and how the progression works and the puzzles and all that stuff.
I mean, I'll agree now that the only thing that really gets in the way from sheer perfection is the two, I think it is, big puzzle sequences where it's several levels, several rooms, that
It just takes a little too long for a game that's paced so cleanly.
A little too long. But this game...
But they're good puzzles.
Yeah, they're definitely good puzzles. More so the one with the people, the elevator and the three people. The puzzles with the girl that you're running away from. I mean, even those are barely puzzles. It's more just like that's one of the slight trial and error sequences. Certainly not in the way of Little Nightmares, not in the same way, but it could do with one less room or so. Not to really shorten the experience, but just to interrupt the pace a little less. So, Inside is doing something that I think is far different than either of the two Little Nightmare games or Limbo. And they're each so focused on those individual sections. The few different levels with the spider.
This is a good point.
The kitchen, the hospital, maybe, if we want to talk about Little Nightmares 2, which I don't. Limbo almost requires you to talk about it and honestly experience it holistically. I mean, the first third of the game, you do almost nothing. You climb over a fence from some dogs and swim underwater from some people shooting you. That's about it. Then you've got the farm, which I think is great.
Yeah.
The pig running at you. You've got to pull that worm out of its anus. It's gross.
Yeah.
It's disgusting. And then, again, the animation. I've said it. For all of these games, it's super important. Limbo has some of the best animation I've ever seen in a game. I think Limbo is stunning. Inside. I'm sorry. Limbo's actually kind of janky with some of its animations.
I was about to say.
No, Inside is what I mean. Especially when you go into the farm, you can get in there two ways. There is a fence. You can either just press on and you crawl through the... it's like just a janky wooden fence. You can crawl under it, or gate rather. Or you can jump over it. And if you jump over it, you jump on it and then off of it. But the gate is unlocked, so when you jump off of it, you trip. It falls out, it like swings open from under you. and the way you sort of fall forward and catch yourself really took me by surprise. The first time I played it, I reloaded the sequence to do it again, just to see the animation. And then I watched a couple podcasts, and everybody mentioned that. So pretty unanimously, that took people by surprise. The level, the
fluidity,
fluidity. Yes, this game almost can't exist without the level of polish.
Okay, I can't wait anymore. Talk about that puzzle.
Okay. Well, real quick, I want to finish. I just have one more thing to say. Sort of reiterate. You should experience this if you can. It's 3.5 hours, maybe 4. I know it's long, but really you would do yourself a disservice if you cannot sit down for one seamless playthrough. There is a time later on when you get the submarine. I'll just say that. When you get the submarine, that's a clear break point. If you're going to stop, only stop there. But this game doesn't focus on any one set piece or set of puzzles. It is one full experience. That's kind of how it has to be talked about, and where a lot of the enjoyment comes from for me. It's not even scary until right towards the end, or even that unsettling, because you're just walking right forever. But the way it so slowly and expertly builds on every second of what's happening in the background, what from the background rushes to the foreground to affect you as the player character, all of that is so expertly paced in a way that none of these other games are. That's all I'll say there. So, the puzzle or sequence that I have talked about, that I've alluded to, that I think is one of the most expertly crafted moments in all of video games. It's since 2016, since the first time I played it. It became one of my absolute favorite.
Is that when it came
moments.
out?
16, yeah.
Weird. Okay.
Yeah. And that is just after the really long puzzle sequence that it actually interrupts the pace. And one of the things that makes it hit home so much, that really elevates it, is the build up to it. Again, just like we've mentioned with all of these games, the sound design is one of the key pillars to delivering that overall aesthetic and delivering the experience, because aesthetic is one of the biggest part of the experiences for these games. None of the gameplay is particularly stellar. None of the puzzles in Limbo are huge brain busters that are doing anything super interesting. But it's all of those elements mixing together. And so there's a level that completely stops your progress with a big puzzle where you're controlling all of these mindless drones you mentioned earlier, all of the just like white blobby people that can be mind controlled. Excuse me. You've got to control them all the whole time. It's I think it's 3, possibly 5 rooms left to right. I think it's 5 rooms with the elevator in the middle. So 2 on either side. Anyway,
3 floors.
And 3 floors. So it's pretty big. There's folks on all of them that you've got to sort of collect and then get them to do things for you. I think we call that sort of Lemmings style, though I've not actually played Lemmings. Anyhow, or Pikmin, I guess.
I have fond memories of Lemmings. I haven't played it in ages.
So the whole time that's happening, and it increases and shifts based on the level you're on and which room you're in. There's this bass that keeps coming like every 8 seconds or so, and dust shakes off the wall, or if you're closer to it, like this dust bellows out of a window. Things shake, like there's a hanging sign that shakes and flickers. You don't know what's through this giant door that's very intentionally blocked. You need 19. There are 19 of these drones that are locked in certain places. You have to get them all on this one pressure pad to go through the door. And you finally do. So that's the part that we think could be pretty drastically shortened. It breaks the pace pretty significantly, but you get through there. This has been building up. What is this sound happening? And you know it's just through the door because there are some windows in that wall, and the dust blows through. But you get there, and there's a like a half wall of metal blocking you, and you see something way off in the distance creating these giant sound waves that are shaking the entire structure of this building. You had no idea what it is. It's not revealed, and in fact, a lot of things in this game are not, which is not the point. Why things are happening is far less important than what is happening. So the whole point of this sequence, which is I think 3 or 4 puzzles or levels in the chapter select, you have to hide behind blocks, move them, lift walls up and down and then rush to the new walls that you've just created as this sound wave is blasting. And every other death animation in the game, still great animation, has been far less gruesome. In fact, almost very little violence. Even when rabid Rottweilers jump on you and start tearing you apart, you don't really see that like you do in Limbo, limbs getting torn off and stuff. But when you get hit with the sound wave, there's no other option. Like they couldn't really do anything else with it. You are eviscerated.
Into chunks of meat.
Like, what is it called? Oddworld.
Or like Scanners. I think Scanners.
I haven't seen Scanners.
Oh gosh, dude. It's so good.
I know I'd like it too.
You've seen a bunch of movies I haven't. I just mentioned all like the classics.
Sure.
Sure. You've seen a lot more modern film, but Scanners, people literally just explode. It's incredible.
Yeah. In terms of games, I remember Oddworld. But anyway, I think this is marrying all of the elements of the game. The actual platforming, the game parts of it, as light as they are, the visuals, the sound design and the music, not just the music, but also the sound effects that are happening, the animation. Every single element of this game is married in a way that not only most games do, like most games don't do this. There are few games that this is even possible for, because so many games incorporate a bunch of different mechanics that can't really work together seamlessly and be married in such a perfect way. It's tense. It's sort of viscerally, it sort of, makes you withdraw a bit.
Especially if you got headphones on.
Yeah. Oof. Oh, I should have played both of these games with... Oh, I did play Limbo with headphones. Definitely should have played Inside with headphones. Anyway, this stretch of challenge, I don't know if I'd call it a puzzle. Zach and I might disagree a bit there, but whatever this is, this sequence, I think is, again, I've already said it too many times, one of the most expertly crafted sequences that video games offer. And I don't think it's possible for many other games. Not because this game is better than any other game. It's better than a lot of games. But, again, like in Prey, I don't think something like this is even remotely possible in Prey. Because there's so much happening, and not everything is working together to create an experience like this. Yeah, sound design in Prey is great. Mechanics in Prey are stellar. But there's something about this that can almost only be done in this sort of space. And Inside offers that. And that's right near the end. I think it's like halfway through the last third of the game. Whatever that means. The last quarter of the game.
Halfway through the last third of the game.
Yeah.
It's 5/6 of the way through the game.
Yeah. The last quarter of the game. Whatever.
I don't even know what it would be.
Whatever.
Yeah,
it's pretty near the end. You're starting to wrap things up, and not only the build up to this sequence from the puzzle before,
like skeletons with headphones on, blasting in the.
Oh yeah, they're dummies, so it's being tested. There's like an open window. Well, you get a bit of reprieve. You walk into this room, and there's just one lever there, and you can see obviously it's gonna open this window, and you do, and you gotta go. You gotta freaking go, and it's so good. The trial and error, like it just works here so well. This is the last part of that sequence. You open the window and you've got to run out of the room really quickly before the next wave hits you. But you also have to open it at the appropriate time or you'll die. You have to grab this sort of sliding wall. That's blocked by some bars from swinging on its hinges. But then there's a gap where those bars are not there, so if you don't see that's what's actually happening, the bars are blocking the door from swinging, and you're walking in that gap.
Total dumb.
Oh, of course.
Like
I didn't see it either.
Like I was just so focused on what was happening. It was just like, wow, I'm gonna keep dragging this door. Oh, I can keep moving it past this bar. That's cool.
Swings
like,
on its
like a pancake. Just plop.
So if you don't catch that, you'll die. But then there's this giant arm that's like it's just some mechanical arm that's picking things up. But it turns and picks something up. You've got to rush over to it just as it's coming down.
Or my favorite is there's this rotating.
That's really
and
good.
there's kind of rotating like oval blocker that you can get behind, and you have to kind of
So it's a mechanical arm. There are two arms that are connected by this. I mean,
So
you've seen it. It's a piece in an engine.
Yeah, so my thought at first is, okay, I'm going to stop it so I can climb up the ladder. Have it so on the left side there's a ladder. On the right side there's a place where you can jump down and keep running. What I didn't realize is there's not enough reprieve for you to be able to just stop it where you want it to be. You have to basically time it so that it's stopped and then start it so that it matches up on the left where you need to block it for your climb up the ladder, and on the right where you need it to jump down. And the game knows this is a hard puzzle. Like, it wasn't hard for me to figure out. Like, I died once. I'm like, oh, that's what I needed to do. But timing's pretty precise. Like, you gotta be quick.
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to do it on the first try, but I could see doing it.
It's so good. The timing is so precise, and I don't mean you have to time it so precisely, but again, just the whole experience, everything that's working together in harmony is so precise. You do climb up the ladder, and then it's way above you. It's coming down. You have to jump off, and you do a bit of a somersault when you land. But the sound wave is coming. You know it's coming any split second now, and you land and roll at the same time as this thing comes in front of you, and it shakes. And So that's really cool. That's so good. But the sound design I mentioned.
Yeah.
First of all, the sound waves themselves are huge, but anytime you're behind something, it's affecting the character's ears. So when you're behind that, the sound wave hits it, and it's a hollow, tinny metal that pops your ears basically. And it's not just like, when you throw a grenade in Call of Duty and it rings for a bit. It's not something like that.
It's like this echo in your brain
that also is incorporated into the music. It's just so good.
Yeah,
I love this sequence.
This is just the best of what the game is already offering, I'd argue.
Yes, I mean, you're doing other things that offer similar experiences, but
this is the
best.
Pinnacle.
It's
yeah,
the
I'd
best.
agree. Well, man, I'm glad you got to share it with me. Is there anything else you'd want to touch on?
Not for me. Is there anything else for you?
That was really it, man. I mean, I really loved it. Incredible game. Definitely the best of what we've played today. I think
your favorite was Faith, right?
Yeah, if we're gonna be totally subjective, but the one I'm gonna remember and talk about more is Inside for sure.
Oh, really?
Yeah, absolutely. Just Faith just checked some boxes for me that Inside didn't, and not because Inside isn't good. It's just
that's not what I'm looking for. I'm just wondering what your favorite is.
Yeah, no, probably probably Faith if I was just gonna go with my gut, but I'm gonna be talking more about Inside.
This looks like that farm in Inside.
It does. Yeah, it definitely does.
Anyway,
sorry. No, it's good. I I'm glad I played it. I will probably be playing it again. In fact, of all of these, the only ones I will play again are Faith and Inside, probably.
And Paratopic, right?
Paratopic, of course. I probably won't even play Limbo again. Like, I already need a Limbo.
No, I mean, I could play Limbo again. It'll be many years, you know, maybe if I'm like trying to share some things with my kids, but I've played it 4 times now, I believe. I don't need to play Limbo.
You good.
I get it. Oops, sorry. I get it.
But yeah, man, I think that's it. I'm glad we got to survey so many games. I am also glad that next week we're going. Remember, guys, it's October, so we're going weekly.
Yes.
We're gonna hit the ground running.
Ing.
It's gonna be fast and furious. So
We will not be playing Fast and Furious, though.
no, thank God. That is a horror game, though, in its own right. Sorry, I'm sure you devs worked really hard on it. But for me, though, I mean, so anyway, next week we're playing. Or this next week we are playing The Medium, one we have both been looking very much forward to ever since playing Observer last year. And then we are also going to be playing one of your recommendations that you have not played, right?
Oh, definitely not, no.
Yeah, Yomawari. You've been wanting to play this for a while, actually.
Yes, I own this
I think
times.
Yeah, and we played Lone Survivor instead, I think, is what we did last year. Because we were initially going to play
Yeah,
one
we were
more.
looking for indie games, and this one... oh, no, it was... what's it called? Darkwood that was a bit too long.
That's
to
right.
fit both of them.
That's right.
So Yomawari is a top-down horror as well. Sort of isometric. I don't know. Anyway, it's definitely Eastern horror. This is Japanese sort of lore and folk tale, cute chibi anime girl sort of vibe, but also pretty grotesque Eastern.
I know
horror.
nothing about it.
That's all I know from screenshots. I saw some screenshots. I haven't looked at gameplay. I don't even know if there is much gameplay. It could be basically a visual novel.
Yeah.
Or a dating sim with some spirits. I don't know what it is. But I saw some pictures and I said, that.
Yeah,
I want
which is
it.
great. I'm excited to play it. So I'm looking forward to that. I guess just final shout out, just wanted to make sure that everybody knows. If you didn't hear it already, join our Discord. Guys, it's going to be free.
In the link, you can find it on our social media, Twitter and Instagram. You can find links there, but also in the description here. If for some reason you cannot access that, DM us on either of those platforms. We'll get you a link, and or for some reason they're not there, we forget to post. Just DM us. We'll get you that link. We want you to join the community. We want to build that community of
we need
folks
some founding members of that community.
Yes, indeed. They're we've got about 15 people there, so you can come hang out, share some games, play some games. Or just a couple of months ago, we were playing a lot of Monster Hunter World and
Risk of Rain 2.
And Risk of Rain 2. Oh my god, that game's so good.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
It's so good. And
So we'd love to have you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. About to try to have another conversation. Anyway, we'd love for you to join. Please come join us and share your favorite horror games. We definitely won't be able to fit them in this year, but we'll discuss them for next year. And, one of your favorite horror games is probably going to be Silent Hill. So come share your favorite moments from that. It'll be our first time, 20 years now. The 20th anniversary was yesterday.
Wow.
2 days ago. For Silent Hill 2, I mean.
It's a big deal.
Or maybe 2 days ago. But anyway.
To my Konami.
Yes. So we're very excited, and we want you to be excited too. Come join us for this this horror series. And do not forget, folks, share what you love with who you love.